Chapter 730. Who are you? Pasisi looked at the black figure in front of Lu Yuan and sensed that he wasn't inferior to her at all. In fact, his aura was even stronger than hers. A serious look flashed across Pasisi's eyes. This was someone who was at the same level as her. Weren't there only 3 exceptional Douluo in the world, her, Tang Chen and Sendriu? Since when did such a powerful exceptional Douluo appear? Furthermore, there weren't any traces of divine power on his body. This meant that he had reached rank 99 with his own abilities, and wasn't like them, who had relied on the blessings of the gods to reach their current level. Pasisi was even more astonished as she thought until here. She had originally thought that Tang Chen was unique, and that he was the only one who had cultivated to the limit. However, that didn't seem to be the case now. I'm Long Xiaoyao. My title is the Dragon Emperor. Long Xiaoyao placed his hands behind his back and said plainly. He had always been arrogant. Even though Pasisi was at the same level as him, he didn't take her to heart. That was because he could sense that she wasn't as strong as he was. Pasisi was known to be invincible at sea. If they fought on the ocean, she could borrow the strength of the ocean to fight her opponent. When that happened, even Tu Long Xiaoyao wouldn't be able to defeat her. However, they were on the continent now. Pasisi couldn't borrow the strength of the ocean. Once she fought with Long Xiaoyao, she would lose. Of course, her exceptional Douluo was still her exceptional Douluo. Even though Long Xiaoyao could defeat her, he couldn't do anything to her. At the very least, Long Xiaoyao couldn't stop her from leaving. Dragon Emperor Douluo? Pasisi was a little astonished when she heard Long Xiaoyao's words. She seemed to have heard this name somewhere before. As the Dragon King Hall became more and more powerful, the Dragon Emperor Douluo was also discussed by many people in private. Pasisi had also heard about him when she was roaming the continent to find the person who had destroyed the sea god's divine sense. However, she didn't expect him to be so strong. I heard that you want to take my master away. You can take my master away, but you'll have to get past me first. Long Xiaoyao's expression was plain, but his eyes weren't very friendly. Do you really think that I, Long Xiaoyao, don't have a temper? Pasisi's expression changed slightly when she heard his words. She could have forcefully taken Lu Yuan away earlier, but she couldn't do so now. Long Xiaoyao was on the same level as her, and it wasn't realistic for her to try and snatch someone away from a transcendent Douluo. However, how could she be willing to retreat just like that? The sea god had already given the order, so how could she retreat at will? Pasisi's eyes flickered, and his formless aura rose and pressed down on Long Xiaoyao. Long Xiaoyao didn't back down either, and their auras clashed intensely. Just as everyone's attention was drawn to Poseidon and Long Xiaoyao, a grey figure suddenly appeared and grabbed Tang San. After that, he quickly retreated. Thief, how dare you! Ma Xiaodao, who discovered this scene, roared angrily, immediately attracting everyone's attention. How dare you save someone right under the nose of the martial Soul Palace? Moon Pass, Gui Mai! Bibidon shouted, and the Ju Douluo and Gui Douluo pounced towards the grey figure. On the other side, Ma Xiaodao and Dugu Bo moved, and were about to make a move. Elder Pasisi, please help me on account of my grandfather. Tang Xiao will be eternally grateful. The grey figure appeared in mid-air, and a huge clear sky hammer smashed towards the Ju Douluo and Gui Douluo. At the same time, he shouted loudly. Tang Xiao, are you Tang Chen's grandson, Tang Xiao? After hearing Tang Xiao's words, Pasisi's eyes flickered, and he waved his right hand towards Ma Xiaodao and Dugu Bo, who were flying towards him. It was just a white palm, but it possessed terrifying strength. Faced with this sudden attack, the two of them couldn't be bothered to chase after Tang Xiao, and immediately tried to resist it. However, a transcendent Douluo was a transcendent Douluo after all. Just a casual attack was enough to push Ma Xiaodao and Dugu Bo back by more than 10 meters. Dugu Bo's face was even a little pale, and he was clearly injured. Temph, how dare you attack others when you're facing me? After seeing Pasisi's actions, a look of fury flashed across Long Xiaoyao's eyes, and his aura surged. Instantly, Pasisi groaned slightly, and took a step back before he could stabilize himself. In a fight between 2 transcendent Douluo, Even the slightest mistake could lead to defeat. When Pasisi made his move earlier, he was momentarily unsteady, and was pushed back by Long Xiaoyao. Pasisi immediately retracted his hand, and used all his strength to resist Long Xiaoyao. He didn't dare to make any more moves. However, Pasisi's obstruction allowed Tang Xiao to use his clear sky body to push back the chrysanthemum Douluo and ghost Douluo, and he quickly fled with Tang San. Tang Xiao, is the clear sky sect trying to make the entire world your enemy? As he watched Tang Xiao flee into the distance, Bibidon didn't have any intention of attacking. Instead, he looked at Tang Xiao's back and shouted. This time, Tang Xiao is only representing himself. This has nothing to do with the Clear Sky sect. The Clear Sky sect has no intention of making the Martial Soul Palace our enemy. I just want to save my nephew. Tang Xiao's voice could be heard from afar, and disappeared into the horizon after a short while. Only the chrysanthemum Douluo, ghost Douluo, and Bibidon appeared in front of the Martial Soul Palace. The rest of the titled Douluo weren't present. As for the consecrators in the consecration hall, there was no need to talk about them. Without Sendriu's orders, they wouldn't leave the consecration hall unless something big happened. Among the three of them, Bibidon was the Pope, and his status was very high. Naturally, he couldn't make a move for Tang San. On Lu Yuan's side, Ma Xiaodao and Du Gubo had been forced back by Pasisi. As a result, Tang Xiao managed to rescue Tang San after forcing the chrysanthemum Douluo and ghost Douluo back. The only person who could stop Tang San was Ning Fengji. He had the sword Douluo by his side, but he didn't want to completely fall out with the Clear Sky sect. Therefore, he didn't plan to make a move. In this way, Tang Xiao managed to rescue Tang San. As he watched Tang Xiao disappear into the distance, Lu Yuan's expression didn't change. He didn't expect someone to be able to rescue Tang San. Forget it. Even if he's not fated to die, there's still a use for him to live. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed as he looked at the battle between Long Xiaoyao and Pasisi. To him, the battle between the two of them was more attractive. After all, it was rare to see a battle between ultimate soul masters. Even he wasn't sure if he could hurt them to their limits if he used the God-slaying spear. After all, while the God-slaying spear was strong, he was still too weak. Furthermore, the God-slaying spear didn't even have a single soul ring. It was still relying on its most primitive strength, even though it was already frighteningly strong. Chapter 731. I'm still a little too weak. If I were a soul Douluo right now, even Pasisi would be killed by my spear. Lu Yuan muttered to himself. His current abilities were comparable to a rank 95 transcendent Douluo without using the God-slaying spear. Once he became a soul sage, his abilities would improve tremendously. In addition to the strength of his martial soul true body, he would probably be able to resist a rank 98 transcendent Douluo. If he became a soul Douluo, Lu Yuan might even be able to fight Pasisi head-on without using the God-slaying spear. Once he used the God-slaying spear, Pasisi would be dead for sure. After becoming a transcendent Douluo, one's abilities would increase tremendously with every increase in rank. However, going from a soul emperor to a soul sage was a huge metamorphosis. With Lu Yuan's golden dragon, the strength of his martial soul true body would be immeasurable once he became a soul sage. He was definitely terrifyingly powerful, and in addition to some of his other abilities, such as the further evolution of his bloodline and the other rewards provided by the system, it could be said that no matter how powerful an ultimate Douluo was, he would be able to contend with them once he became a soul Douluo. This was Lu Yuan's confidence in himself. Once he became a soul Douluo, no one on the Douluo continent would be able to stop him. Once he became a titled Douluo, he would be able to kill even a god. Of course, this was just a temporary thought. Right now, it was more important to focus on what was in front of him. Long Xiaoyao's and Bai Saishi's auras clashed, and the two of them locked onto each other. Their auras clashed continuously, and it seemed like they were evenly matched. However, anyone could tell that Long Xiaoyao was stronger than Bai Saishi. This is the Martial Soul Palace. It's not a place where the two of you can do whatever you want. Bibidon gripped his scepter tightly as he watched the two of them face off. Elder Long, bring her away from the battlefield. The two of you are too strong. If you fight here, the innocent spectators will be implicated. Lu Yuan looked around and said softly, "Yes, master." Long Xiaoyaro responded. He looked at Pasisi and asked, "Do you dare to fight in the sky?" "I'm happy to." Pasisi looked at Long Xiaoyaro in front of him. His eyes were very serious as he replied softly, "She wasn't a bad person. On the contrary, she was kind-hearted. As long as you didn't offend her beliefs, she was easy to talk to. Hurting innocent people because of him did not fit the image of the sea god, nor did it fit her personality. The sea god was actually a kind god. Although he was a little shameless and disgusting in some ways, he was still a god who represented the power of light. If not for the fact that he had to sneak into Lu Yuan's mind to find out the secrets of the god-slaying spear, he wouldn't have been killed by the god-slaying spear. The god-slaying spear was very cold back then. Lu Yuan couldn't control it at all. The sea god's projection was courting death by finding trouble with the god-slaying spear. Lu Yuan didn't want to make an enemy out of the sea god. However, Pasisi had come to find him. He had to fight even if he didn't want to. It was impossible for him to go to the sea god's island to atone for his sins. Long Xiaoyaro and Poseidon rose into the air and flew into the sky. Not long after, Long Xiaoyaro and Pasisi turned into two black dots in front of everyone's eyes. They rose more than 1,000 meters into the sky. Those with poor eyesight couldn't even see them. Only at such a high altitude could they ensure that the shockwaves from their battle wouldn't affect others. After all, how could a battle between ultimate soul masters be so simple? Those who are not involved, please leave. Guardian Knights, maintain order. Bibidon opened her mouth and started to give orders. The situation was a little chaotic because of Pasisi. Therefore, Bibidon was prepared to clear the arena. After receiving Bibidon's orders, the Guardian Knights started to arrange for the audience to leave the arena in an orderly manner. Although they wanted to continue watching the battle between Ultimate Douluo, they couldn't defy Bibidon's orders. Finally, they left the arena one by one. It could be said that only the people from the Dragon King Palace, Ning Fengji, and the Sword Douluo were left. The rest were from the Martial Soul Palace. Of course, there were also Dai Mubai and Yu Tianheng. Hallmaster Lu, can you let the Martial Soul Palace deal with the two of them? Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan and asked softly. There was a deep look in his eyes. Lu Yuan looked at Yu Tianheng and Dai Mubai, who were looking at him with hatred in their eyes. He nodded slightly. He knew that Bibidon was going to use them. After all, they had the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect and the Star Luo Imperial family behind them. They were the best pawns to deal with these two parties. Please do as you wish, Your Holiness. However, I hope that the Martial Soul Palace can deal with them impartially. Lu Yuan said. Of course. Bibidon nodded and said. After hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded slightly and stepped aside. Once Bibidon was done, their fates wouldn't change. They might even be worse off. As such, there was no need for Lu Yuan to stop him. Ning Fengji looked at Lu Yuan's actions and opened his mouth slightly. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. On the other side, Chihiro Snow and the others ran over to Lu Yuan's side. Abuchi, are you all right? Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan with a hint of concern in her golden eyes. She had also felt the pressure from Pasisi's aura. She was too weak to withstand it and couldn't move. Otherwise, she would have already run over to Lu Yuan's side. I'm fine, don't worry, Lu Yuan replied with a faint smile at the sight of the three worried women. Oh, by the way, where's Yu Xiaogang? Lu Yuan glanced around and didn't find Yu Xiaogang. After what happened just now, he couldn't withstand the blow and vomited a few mouthfuls of blood on the spot. He has already fainted. Dean Liu Erlong and Dean Flender took him away first, Zhu Zhuqing said. He vomited blood. Lu Yuan murmured. He wasn't surprised. Yu Xiaogang regarded his theory as the most important thing in his life. It was more important than his life. Now that such a thing had happened, it was normal for him to not be able to withstand the blow. After all, this meant that he would never have the chance to prove his theory again. For him, this was more terrifying than the sky collapsing. It was normal for him to vomit blood and faint. By the way, Abuchi, who do you think will win, Senior Dragon Emperor or Pasisi? Ning Rongrong narrowed her eyes and looked at the battle in the sky and asked curiously. Chapter 732. Looking at Ning Rongrong, Lu Yuan smiled and said, Pasisi would have the upper hand if we were on the ocean, but now that we're on land, Pasisi won't be a match for Elder Long-O. That's good. I was scared to death just now. That woman's aura was so terrifying. It was much stronger than Grandpa Jen's. I was really afraid that you would be injured. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Although I'm not a match for a limit Douluo, it's still very difficult for her to injure me with just her aura. I'm not that weak. Lu Yuan rubbed Ning Rongrong's head and smiled. Abuchi, why did Senior Pasisi find trouble with you just now? Is it related to the vast sea cosmic shroud? Ning Fengji walked over and whispered to Lu Yuan. Something like that. It's just a small matter. The sea god's island is far away, and they can't interfere with the matters on the continent. The martial soul palace is eyeing them covetously. Once they leave the sea god's island and land on the continent, they'll immediately be surrounded and intercepted by the martial soul palace. They can't threaten us at all. Furthermore, my Dragon King palace isn't any weaker than the sea god's island. There's no need to worry. Lu Yuan said with a smile. She said that she was following the orders of the sea god. Is there really a god behind her? Ning Fengji asked softly. There was a trace of worry in his voice. Gods, this was a legendary existence. How could he not be afraid? Yes, she has the sea god behind her, but there's no need to be afraid. Gods can't descend to the lower realm. Furthermore, I've accepted the god's test, so I have a god behind me. Why should I be afraid of her? Lu Yuan said. Setting aside the angel goddess, the sea god was far away in the divine realm. However, he had Jiu Yuana, a living god, behind him. Jiu Yuana's current strength was extraordinary. Although she hadn't recovered her full strength, she could already contend with a first-tier god. What did he have to be afraid of? It was just that she couldn't make a move until the very end, lest she attract the attention of the divine world. He had to admit that sometimes, living off a woman was really delicious. Lu Yuan realized that he had been living off Jiu Yuana for quite a while now. Sigh, there was nothing he could do. His wife was too strong. It was actually very difficult for him too. You also have a god behind you? Ning Fengji looked at Lu Yuan with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Otherwise, Uncle Ning, do you think I would be able to obtain 200,000-year soul rings so easily? How can a 100,000-year soul ring be so easy to obtain? This is a soul ring bestowed by God. Lu Yuan sighed slightly. I see. Ning Fengji suddenly understood, and the trace of worry in his eyes completely disappeared. He looked at Lu Yuan with eyes brighter than before. If he accepted the god's assessment, didn't that mean that Lu Yuan would have a chance to become a god in the future? He couldn't let go of such a rich son-in-law. Abuchi, when are you and Rongrong going to do it? Ning Fengji rolled his eyes, looked at Lu Yuan, and asked gently. Hearing this, Ning Rongrong's pretty face suddenly blushed, but her pair of sapphire-like bright eyes stared at Lu Yuan, her eyes full of expectation. We are still young now, so after this competition, let's settle things first. When we are 18 years old, I will officially marry Rongrong. Rubbing Ning Rongrong's head, Lu Yuan said gently. Okay, then it's settled. After getting Lu Yuan's response, Ning Fengji suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that this rich son-in-law couldn't escape. It seemed that the development of the Seven Treasures glazed sect was just around the corner. Ning Rongrong's pretty face was also full of surprise. Although Lu Yuan had already told her that they would settle things after the competition, it was said in private. But now, it was settled in front of Ning Fengji and everyone. Her heart was really full of joy. Thinking of this, Ning Rongrong suddenly tiptoed and directly pecked Lu Yuan's face, and then hugged Lu Yuan's arm tightly in her arms. Lu Yuan smiled, looked at Chihiro Snow and Zhu Zhuqing, and said softly, you too. Hearing this, the two girls couldn't help but smile. Chihiro Snow even glanced at Lu Yuan, as if to say that he knew what was good for him. Lu Yuan rubbed his nose and revealed a bitter smile. Sometimes, it was a little troublesome to have so many girlfriends. He lifted his head and looked at the sky, where Long Xiaoyaro and Pasisi were fighting intensely. Sea God's domain. Looking at Long Xiaoyaro, Pasisi shouted softly. The sea god's projection behind him moved, and a beautiful blue light instantly spread. Poseidon's martial spirit was the sea god. The sea god's martial spirit was no doubt a god-tier martial spirit. It was not any weaker than the seraph's martial spirit. At that moment, the valiant man holding the golden trident on Poseidon's back moved slightly. The sea god's martial spirit's talent area, the sea god's domain, was immediately unleashed. Seeing this scene, Long Xiaoyao's expression didn't change at all. While the sea god was strong, and was a god-ranked martial soul, the Darkness Holy Dragon wasn't just for show. It was also a superb martial soul. In terms of quality, the Darkness Holy Dragon wasn't much inferior to the sea god. Darkness domain. Long Xiaoyaro shouted softly, and a black light spread from his body. In an instant, it clashed with Pasisi's sea god's domain. Suddenly, the sky above the Pope's palace was filled with blue and black. Even the sunlight was blocked by the power of their domains. This scene was very similar to the battle between Long Xiaoyaro and Sendryu. The commotion caused by their battle was too great. Even an old man who had been holed up in the angel temple couldn't sit still. This is the power of the sea and the purest power of darkness. It seems like Pasisi and Long Xiaoyaro are fighting. Furthermore, they're fighting in the martial soul palace. Did something happen? Pasisi actually left the sea god's island and stepped onto the continent. Sendryu was a little doubtful as he muttered to himself. After that, he shook his head slightly and said, "This is the continent. Pasisi's fighting strength in the air is inferior to mine. He's definitely not Long Xiaoyao's match. After all, they're old friends. I can't just watch him get hurt. I have to go and take a look." Sendryu's figure flashed as he spoke. He immediately disappeared from the angel temple. The power of the two domains clashed with each other. The black energy and the blue energy fought intensely. However, just as Sendryu had said, Pasisi was inferior to him in the air. How could he be Long Xiaoyao's match? As time passed, the black domain slowly pushed towards the blue domain. In the sky, the dark domain became larger and larger, while the blue domain became smaller and smaller. Pasisi was already at a disadvantage. Chapter 733. Abuchi, look. The Dragon Emperor has gained the upper hand. Ning Rongrong pointed at the black domain in the sky, which had already occupied most of the sky, and spoke excitedly. I see it. It's to be expected. The sea god Douluo is known to be invincible in the ocean. She's almost as strong as a demigod in the ocean. Other than the beast god Di Tian, who I mentioned previously, no one can defeat her. However, she can't borrow the power of the ocean on the continent. She's actually not much stronger than an ordinary exceptional Douluo. She's even inferior. In the past, the vast sky Douluo Tang Chen was known to be invincible on land, the angel Douluo Sendryu was known to be invincible in the sky, and the sea god Douluo Pasisi was known to be invincible in the ocean. They are the three most famous exceptional Douluo in the world today. The reason why they have such titles is actually related to their martial souls. The vast sky hammer can only unleash its greatest power on the ground. The six-winged angel's home ground is the sky. The sky is the most suitable battlefield for the six-winged angels. The sea god Douluo's home ground is the ocean. However, Elder Long is different. The Darkness Holy Dragon is known to be able to fight on all terrains. It can be said that it's home ground. The battlefield doesn't have any restrictions for Elder Long. Now that they're fighting in the sky, it's normal for Pasisi to be at a disadvantage as time passes. Furthermore, her raw strength is inferior to Elder Long's. Elder Long will definitely win, Lu Yuan said softly. Can Elder Long take down Pasisi? Otherwise, she'll come back to fight you after she escapes. Ning Rongrong asked curiously as she held on to Lu Yuan's arm. She can't. Although Pasisi can't defeat Elder Long can't stop her if she wants to leave. There's a gap between them, but it's not that big. If Elder Long was replaced by Di Tian today, Pasisi would definitely die. Lu Yuan shook his head and said plainly, "Ah, that's truly a pity." Hearing that, Ning Rongrong opened her mouth and spoke with a face full of regret. "Heh, when did you become so murderous? Pasisi isn't a bad person. If she didn't take the last step, there was no need to kill her." Lu Yuan said softly, "My killing intent isn't that heavy. I just don't want to see someone become your enemy. Moreover, this person is so strong. I'm afraid that she will take advantage of Elder Long's absence to become your enemy." Ning Rongrong shook her head and said with an aggrieved expression. Pinching Ning Rongrong's cheeks, Lu Yuan said with a smile, Okay, I was wrong about you. I apologize." "That's more like it," Ning Rongrong muttered. "What do you mean she's not a bad person? I think you just can't bear to kill her because she's beautiful. Otherwise, with your personality, would you be merciful to your enemies?" Chihiro Snow couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he heard Lu Yuan's words. "Cher, what are you talking about? Am I that kind of person?" Lu Yuan rolled his eyes at Chihiro Snow and said snappily, You are very decisive towards your enemies, but you are very soft-hearted towards women, especially beautiful women. And this Pasisi is very beautiful." Zhu Zhuqing's cold voice sounded. Hearing this, Lu Yuan was speechless. So, this was his image in Cher and Zhu Qing's eyes. Although this Pasisi was very beautiful, this wasn't a reason why he didn't want to kill her. What he was worried about was that if he really left Pasisi here, Sendryu would fight him to the death. After all, Sendryu had a crush on Pasisi. Others might not know, but he was very clear about it. Back then, Sendryu had even pursued Pasisi, although he lost to Tang Chen. However, this didn't mean that Sendryu had forgotten about this relationship. He even guessed that Sendryu would rush over soon, given the intensity of the battle. Furthermore, the first thing he would do when he arrived would be to stop the fight. It was just that Lu Yuan couldn't say these things with Ning Fengji and the others beside him. "Forget it, I can't explain it to you." Lu Yuan rolled his eyes and couldn't be bothered with them. He lifted his head slightly and looked at the battle above. Pasisi and Long Xiaoyaro were fighting fiercely over there. "Mph, you can't explain it to me. I think you have nothing to say." Chihiro Snow snorted, and Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. Forget it. There are so many people here. I won't argue with her. I'll talk about it when we get back." Lu Yuan thought to himself as he stared at the battle above without blinking. "Darkness Holy Dragon True Body." Long Xiaoyaro roared and transformed. A huge black dragon that was several hundred feet long appeared in the sky, and dragon roars resounded. Pasisi's expression turned serious, and an intense blue light erupted from her body. The sea god's projection behind her started to move quickly, and the trident in her hand shone with boundless light. Pasisi also unleashed her martial soul true body, and she gradually fused with the sea god's projection behind her. A huge golden trident pierced towards the huge black dragon that was several hundred feet long. Bang! The two clashed, and an intense light erupted. This light was so bright that Chihiro Snow and the others couldn't help but close their eyes. The intensity of the light was too high, and there was a danger of burning one's eyes if one were to forcibly look at it. Not everyone was like Lu Yuan, who had double pupils. Roar! A dragon roar sounded, and Long Xiaoyao's tail slapped Pasisi's body. Pasisi was pushed back by 100 meters, and she couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. She wasn't Long Xiaoyao's match in a head-on clash. Pasisi's blue eyes shone with a streak of golden light, and the aura on her body suddenly increased. She was prepared to use the sea god's divine power when she realized that she wasn't as strong as Long Xiaoyao. "Ah, stop." Just as Pasisi was summoning her divine power, a voice sounded in the sky. A figure flashing with golden light appeared in midair, and 3 pairs of snow-white wings flapped gently behind his back. When this figure appeared, Bai Saishi and Long Xiaoyaro stopped at the same time. Their figures changed, and the two of them exited their martial soul true bodies. "Pasisi, we meet again," this figure said softly. Sendryu, you've finally come out. Pasisi looked at the figure in front of him and said plainly. The two of you are fighting so intensely in front of my house. How can I not come out? What feud do the two of you have? Do you have to fight so desperately? Sendryu sighed and asked. There's no feud between us. It's just that I want to take someone away, and he won't let me, Pasisi said. Chapter 734. Take someone away? Who do you want to take away? Sendryu asked. It's that kid down there. Pasisi pointed at Lu Yuan and said indifferently. It's him. You can take anyone else away, but you really can't take him away. Sendryu said. Even with your help, I can't take him away? Pasisi asked. Don't misunderstand. I have no intention of helping you. I don't dare to attack that kid. I advise you not to make things difficult for him. Otherwise, you'll be the one at a disadvantage. Although you're an exceptional Douluo, that kid's trump cards are more profound than the last. He's the successor of the godly king. You'd better not provoke him. Sendryu hurriedly waved his hand and said softly. If Pasisi wanted to take anyone else away, he would turn a blind eye. However, she wanted to take away Lu Yuan, so Sendryu could only reject her decisively. This was his grandson-in-law, the successor of the godly king, and the next pope of the martial Soul Palace. He was indispensable to the development of the martial Soul Palace. How could he let Pasisi take someone like him away? He liked Pasisi, but in his heart, the martial Soul Palace and the mission of an angel were the most important. The successor of the godly king? Pasisi was shocked when she heard this. She said involuntarily, is there a problem with the sea god's inheritance? Is it the work of a godly king? She believed in the sea god, so she knew a little about the ranks of the gods in the god realm. The strongest in the god realm were the godly kings, followed by the sea god and other main gods. They were the so-called first-tier gods. Although the sea god was powerful, there was a big gap between him and a godly king. Even on the sea god's home ground, he was not a match for a godly king. Therefore, when Pasisi realized that the problem with the sea god's inheritance might be related to a godly king, she was shocked. There's a problem with the sea god's inheritance. What do you mean? Hearing Pasisi's words, Sendryu asked with some confusion. The divine sense that Lord Sea God left in the sea god's heart to guide the chosen ones to the sea god's island to receive the inheritance has been destroyed. Right now, the sea god's heart is in that brat's hands, so I suspect that this matter has something to do with him. However, although that kid's talent is extraordinary, it's basically impossible for him to destroy the senses of the sea goddess soul. However, you said that he's the successor of a god king, so it's extremely likely that this is the handiwork of the god king behind him. Poseidon sighed softly. His expression was a little ugly. Sendryu sucked in a breath of cold air and said in realization, so that's how it is. No wonder you would travel so far to set foot on the continent. That's right. Otherwise, I would be responsible for guarding the entire sea god's island. How could I travel to the continent alone? Pasisi sighed and said, however, looking at the current situation, I won't be able to complete the mission that Lord Sea God gave me. If you don't help me, I won't be able to defeat this Dragon Emperor Douluo. Even if I help you, I'll just be taking a beating with you in the end. This Dragon Emperor isn't the most powerful being by that kid's side. Sendryu shook his head. Could it be that there's someone even more powerful by that kid's side? Pasisi asked with some disbelief. They were already the most powerful beings below the gods. She didn't believe that there was someone even more powerful than them. Sendryu recalled what Chihiro Snow had told him about Jiyu Uena, and couldn't help but reply softly, there is. The person by that kid's side is close to a god. He naturally didn't doubt Chihiro Snow's judgment. Since Chihiro Snow said that Jiyu Uena's aura was above his and Long Xiaoyao's, it had to be true. Therefore, even though he found it hard to accept that there was someone on the continent who was far more powerful than them, Sendryu still accepted this fact. Close to a god. Pasisi's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. She had no chance of taking Lu Yuan away with someone like that protecting him. It was no wonder that Sendryu didn't even dare to help her, given their friendship. It was because he was too afraid of the strength by Lu Yuan's side. Should I say that he was indeed the successor of the godly king? That's why you should give up. I'm doing this for your own good. Furthermore, the reason why the sea god is pursuing this matter is because someone destroyed his divine consciousness and destroyed his inheritance. Why don't you let that kid compensate you with a successor? Won't that solve all your problems? Sendryu said. Pasisi's eyes brightened when she heard this. After that, she slowly shook her head and said, the sea god has very high requirements for his successor. How can he be interested in just anyone? It's not bad if that kid is himself. It's a pity that he's the successor of the godly king. Then I have no choice. Why don't you ask that kid yourself? Since he was in the wrong, he should give you an explanation. From what I know, he's not an unreasonable person. Sendryu said. I guess that's the only way. Pasisi sighed and said a little helplessly. She couldn't do anything about the current situation. The enemy was stronger than she was. Does the Dragon Emperor Douluo have any objections? Pasisi looked at Long Xiaoyaro and asked. As long as you don't attack my master, I can't be bothered with you. Long Xiaoyaro said plainly. An exceptional Douluo calling me master. Pasisi's mouth twitched when she heard how Long Xiaoyaro addressed Lu Yuan. This kid's status is very high. Then let's go down first. Sendryu said. Pasisi nodded when she heard this. She descended with Sendryu. Long Xiaoyaro naturally followed closely behind. With their speed, it didn't take long for them to land on the ground. Long Xiaoyaro stood beside Lu Yuan, while Pasisi and Sendryu landed opposite Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's eyes sparkled when he saw Sendryu. His guess was right. Pasisi's appearance meant that Sendryu would definitely mediate the fight. It seemed like this old man still had feelings for Pasisi. Chihiro Snow, who was standing beside Lu Yuan, looked at Sendryu's figure. There was a doubtful look in his eyes. His grandfather seems to be very close to Pasisi. Angel Douluo Sendryu. The sword Douluo's body trembled when he saw Sendryu. He had a deep impression of this person. Hey! Sendryu couldn't help but shift his gaze when he heard someone call his name. Rank 96, killing intent, and sword aura. This is the aura of the 7 killings sword. Are you Sword Sovereign Chen's son, and the sword Douluo of the 7 treasures glazed sect? Yes. The sword Douluo replied. Not bad. You have some of your father's strength. However, your abilities are far inferior to your father's. He was rank 98 back then, while you're only rank 96 now. Qian Dao Liu first affirmed it, then shook his head and said. Chapter 735. Of course I'm inferior to my father. The sword Douluo wasn't angry at all when he heard Sendryu's words. Instead, he spoke with a calm expression. In terms of talent, he was indeed inferior to his father, Sword Sovereign Chen. Furthermore, he had always followed his father's example and worked hard. It was a pity that his talent was limited, and he couldn't reach his father's level in the end. Your father was indeed an outstanding talent of his generation. Back then, he had already reached the pinnacle of sword intent, and was only a step away from sword soul. If he could take another step further, the outcome of the battle would have been very different. It's a pity that he was still a step away, and that's why he was defeated by me. You must really want to avenge your father, right? Sendryu asked. No. Back then, my father challenged you in pursuit of a higher level of the way of the sword. Even though he died without any regrets. I don't hate you, nor do I have any thoughts of taking revenge on you. Moreover, I'm no match for you at all. The sword Douluo shook his head as he spoke. That's good. I don't want to stain my hands with another life, Sendryu said calmly. It was good that the sword Douluo could accept this. If he couldn't accept this and insisted on seeking revenge, he naturally wouldn't show any mercy. The sword Douluo nodded slightly when he heard this, but he didn't say anything. Grandpa Jian, Ning Rongrong called out softly when she saw the sword Douluo's expression. This was the first time she had learned that the sword Douluo's father had died at the hands of Sendryu. Now that he had seen his father's murderer, the sword Douluo must be feeling very bad. Although Ningrongrong had a bad temper, she was very kind. She was very concerned about the sword Douluo, who had doted on her since she was young. Don't worry, Rongrong. Grandpa Jian is fine. The sword Douluo's heart warmed when he saw Ningrongrong's worried gaze. He hadn't doted on her for nothing. She even knew how to care for others. Abuchi, why don't you help Grandpa Jian vent his anger? Ningrongrong whispered into Lu Yuan's ear, her hot breath hitting Lu Yuan's ear. The sword Douluo wasn't a match for Sendryu, but Long Xiaoyaro was. Therefore, Ningrongrong wanted Lu Yuan to help the sword Douluo teach Sendryu a lesson. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched when he heard this. He subconsciously glanced at Chihiro Snow beside him. If he dared to let Chihiro Snow beat up Sendryu, Chihiro Snow would definitely beat him up when they returned tonight. Chihiro Snow might not even let him onto the bed. There was no doubt that Chihiro Snow was definitely capable of doing such a thing. Furthermore, Chihiro Snow was still holding a grudge against him because of what had happened to Bibidon. He couldn't afford to offend Chihiro Snow for the time being. It was best for him to cower. Ever since he confessed to Hulena all those years ago, he had never been beaten up by Chihiro Snow again. He didn't want to experience the feeling of being beaten up again. Chihiro Snow was really ruthless. Alright, Rongrong, stop fooling around. The sword Douluo has already said that he doesn't want to take revenge. Why do we have to create more trouble? Lu Yuan whispered into Ningrongrong's ear. Temph, you don't dote on me anymore. Ningrongrong snorted and pouted. I dote on you. Of course I dote on you. But look at the situation now. I still have some troublesome things to deal with. Lu Yuan said. That's right. Ningrongrong nodded as she looked at Pasisi. Lu Yuan hadn't even dealt with his own troublesome matters, yet she wanted Lu Yuan to help her teach Sendryu a lesson. She was really too insensible. Ningrongrong couldn't help but feel a little ashamed when she thought of this. She held Lu Yuan's hand and lowered her head. She looked as if she had done something wrong. Lu Yuan rubbed her head and looked at Pasisi. He smiled and said, "It seems like Senior Pasisi has calmed down a lot." Pasisi was silent. She carefully sized up Lu Yuan and nodded. No wonder this kid was chosen by the God King and became the God King's successor. His talent was truly astonishing. He was much stronger than they were back then. Senior Pasisi, why are you looking at me like that? Lu Yuan asked in confusion when he saw Pasisi's gaze. I just want to see how extraordinary you are as the God King's successor, Pasisi said indifferently. The God King's successor? Lu Yuan was slightly surprised when he heard this. He then looked at Sendryu beside Pasisi and immediately understood everything. Sendryu must have told her this. After all, that was how he had scared Sendryu back then. And looking at Pasisi's current appearance, she seemed to be shocked by his identity as the God King's successor. However, it was normal when he thought about it. Although the sea god was a first-tier god, there was still a big gap between him and the God King. Pasisi was cautious after knowing his identity as the God King's successor. It couldn't be more normal. So you've been looking at me for so long. Do you think I'm worthy of the God King's successor? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. You're worthy. If you're not, then there's really no one else in this world who's worthy of this identity. Pasisi sighed softly and said. Lu Yuan smiled faintly when he heard that. He didn't deny it. You're the God King's successor, and you have the protection of an exceptional Douluo. I can't take you down. However, I want to ask you something. Were you the one who destroyed the sea god's consciousness, or was it the handiwork of the God King behind you? Pasisi asked loudly as he looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled bitterly when he heard Pasisi's words. He said, this matter is indeed related to me, but it can't be entirely my fault. The sea god's consciousness had to invade my sea of consciousness, and he even provoked the supradivine weapon in my sea of consciousness. In the end, he was killed by the restrictions set up by the God King. This matter has nothing to do with me. He sought his own death. Lu Yuan spoke softly. Apart from describing the god-slaying spear as a supradivine weapon, everything else was true. The sea god did seek his own death that day, and it couldn't be entirely his fault. Everyone's mouths twitched when they heard that. Seeking his own death was a little troublesome. Pasisi's expression became a little strange after she heard Lu Yuan's words. She had roughly guessed that the sea god must have seen that this boy was extremely talented and wanted to choose him as the successor of the sea god. However, she didn't expect that this boy had already been chosen by a god king. Therefore, the sea god had run into the muzzle of the spear on his own accord, and it wasn't that someone was deliberately targeting the sea god's inheritance. It had to be said that Pasisi's imagination was quite powerful. The sea god had indeed chosen Lu Yuan back then, and he had even taken the initiative to use the power of the sea god's heart to transform Lu Yuan's sea of consciousness. If he hadn't been so curious and provoked the god-slaying spear, he really wouldn't have died like that. However, there were too many secrets in Lu Yuan's sea of consciousness. Ever since the sea god's consciousness entered Lu Yuan's sea of consciousness, it was destined to disappear. Otherwise, the secrets in Lu Yuan's sea of consciousness would have been exposed. The god-slaying spear back then wasn't like it was now, where its power had been restrained by the power of the system, and the gods wouldn't have discovered anything strange. If the sea god had discovered the god-slaying spear back then and reported it to the Divine Realms Committee, it would have really brought unprecedented trouble to Lu Yuan. Therefore, the sea god's death was actually the best outcome for Lu Yuan back then. Chapter 736. However, even if that's the case, the destruction of the sea god's consciousness is related to you. You still have to take some responsibility. Although she already knew that this was a huge mistake and that no one was targeting the sea god's inheritance, the sea god's consciousness was still destroyed. If she returned with such an outcome, it would be difficult for her to explain herself. She could not say that the sea god was looking for death and that he could not be blamed at all. She needed to say it tactfully and give the sea god a way out. Moreover, the problem with the sea god's inheritance was indeed related to the brat in front of her. Logically speaking, she did have to do something. All right, you're right, senior. However, how do you want me to take responsibility? Go to the sea god's island with you and accept the trial of the sea god. Sorry, that's off the table. I can't agree to that. Lu Yuan shook his head. There's no need to accept the trial, but I do have 2 requests for you. Firstly, the sea god's heart is in your hands. It's the sea god's inheritance item, so you need to return it to me. Secondly, since the sea god's consciousness was destroyed by the god king's restriction in your brain, you have to take on the responsibility of finding an inheritor for the sea god. You have to find a suitable inheritor for the sea god to accept the sea god's inheritance. Actually, I think you're quite good. If you're willing to be the sea god's inheritor, that would be great. Pasisi said softly to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's mouth twitched when he heard Pasisi's words. He said unhappily, I'm giving up on the god king's inheritance for the sea god's inheritance. Do you really think I'm stupid? Pasisi smiled when he heard that. He said, actually, it's not impossible if you're a little stupid. If someone else became the sea god's inheritor, I really might not be willing to accept it. However, if it's you, I have no objections. What do you mean by no opinion? I think you want to kill me openly in the test. Don't think that I don't know what the 6th test of the God test is. That is a real test of life and death, Lu Yuan complained. You actually know so much about the test of gods. Pasisi was shocked when she heard that, but then she put a smile on her face. Putting aside the fact that I don't have any intention of killing you, with your current strength, if you really pass the 5 trials and reach the 6th trial, even if I wanted to kill you, I'm afraid that I won't have the ability to do so. If I'm not wrong, you're comparable to a rank 95 transcendent Douluo. I can't predict how much more powerful you'll become after the 5 trials, but I'm sure I won't be able to defeat you so easily. Pasisi said with a sigh. That's true, Lu Yuan muttered softly. Hearing Lu Yuan's mumbling, everyone present rolled their eyes. Originally, they were all shocked by Lu Yuan's strength, but now, they couldn't help but sigh. Lu Yuan was Lu Yuan. The thickness of his skin had never changed. It had never been associated with the word humble. So what's your decision? Do you want to go to the Sea God's Island with me to take the test? Pasisi asked. Forget it. I'm not very interested in the sea god's deity position, Lu Yuan said with a wave of his hand. All right, that's a pity. But the condition remains the same. You have to give me a qualified successor, Pasisi said. I can consider that. But Pasisi, the 9th test of the inheritance of gods will be very difficult for you. Are you sure you want to raise this condition with me? Lu Yuan stared at Pasisi and asked softly. You're indeed the successor of the divine king. You know so much. But I'm already so old, and I've basically gotten over these things. Furthermore, this is my mission. Pasisi said. Upon hearing this, Sendriu's expression changed slightly. That's right. This was their mission as oracles. When the successor reached the 9th test, they had to use their lives to open the temple of inheritance and become a new god. Of course, the difference between him and Pasisi was that Pasisi might be unwilling to sacrifice himself for others, but Sendriu was not. This was because the successor of the angel was his biological granddaughter. He really had no regrets. Is that so? Upon hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded. Pasisi had basically gotten over it. In fact, there was still one thing that he had not gotten over, and that was Tang Chen. He still wanted to see Tang Chen again. It was a pity that Tang Chen could not even protect herself now. Moreover, Tang Chen was a member of the heavenly sect. She was destined to be his enemy, and he definitely had to eliminate her. If there were no accidents, it would be a little difficult for Pasisi to see Tang Chen again. However, when it came to the successor, Lu Yuan's gaze turned slightly and swept across the people around him one by one. Zhu Qing, do you want to be a successor? Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing and asked softly. Now, by his side, Chihiro Snow had the angel's inheritance, Jiyu Yuena was a god, and Hulena was going to the massacre city with the killing god domain. Some killing god's deity positions were more suitable for her. The sea god's deity position was naturally fine, but considering his current identity as the Dragon King Palace Lord, it was not very desirable to give the deity position to Hulena. Ning Rongrong was a support type, so it was impossible for her to be chosen. And Bibidon, whom he had previously favored, was now deeply involved in the Rakshasa's inheritance. Although Lu Yuan did not like the Rakshasa deity, with Bibidon's 2 martial souls, some dark-type gods were more suitable for her, especially the evil god, who was really a perfect match for her. If he had the ability in the future, he could forcefully arrange a wave of them. In that case, only Zhu Zhuqing could do it. After all, it was the inheritance of a first-level god, so it was best not to let the goodies flow into the fields of outsiders. Now, Zhu Zhuqing was 14 years old, a level 52 Soul King, had the superb martial soul, 9 lives links, and was qualified to inherit the sea god's deity position. This girl, level 52 at 14 years old, and her physique is very strong, and her foundation is very stable. She's qualified to be a successor. Pasisi said. Of course I want the god's inheritance when it's delivered to my door, but my martial soul is 9 lives links. Is it compatible with the sea god's deity position? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Generally speaking, cats are afraid of water, but that's normal. As the most powerful existence in the cat clan, 9 lives links is not afraid of water. As for whether it's compatible or not, it can be said that it's important or not. It's best if it's compatible, but if it's really talented, it's not a big problem if it's not compatible, as long as it doesn't clash with the deity position. Lu Yuan said softly. Was the issue of compatibility important? In fact, it was not that important. Were Tang San's 2 martial souls compatible with the sea god in the original work? There was no relationship at all. But didn't he still inherit the sea god's deity position? Therefore, when the gods chose their successors, the first important thing was talent, and the second was the issue of compatibility. Chapter 737. In the original trajectory, Zhu Zhuqing had only inherited a second-level god, the god of speed. In Lu Yuan's eyes, such a god position was actually a bit rubbish. Naturally, it would be best for his women to be first-level gods. Speaking of which, the most suitable first-level god position for Zhu Zhuqing was the god of wind, one of the 7 elemental gods under the Azura god. After all, The god of wind was best at controlling the wind element and speed, and Zhu Zhuqing was also good at speed. However, the god of wind was difficult to find, and he didn't know where the inheritance was. Secondly, the strength of the sea god was actually much stronger than the god of wind. After all, the power of the sea god's trident was still very good. As for whether Zhu Zhuqing knew halberd techniques or not, it didn't matter. Lu Yuan himself knew it, and he could teach Zhu Zhuqing. He didn't need her to comprehend spear intent or anything. As long as she could release the divine skill of the sea god, it would be enough. The angel god also used the angel holy sword, but he didn't see Chihiro Snow comprehend sword intent. These days, the main thing was to rely on the strength of the martial soul. So, Zhuqing, do you accept it? If you don't want it, I will give it to Helena. Although some god positions are more suitable for her, in the same way, she is the same as you. It doesn't conflict with the god of sea god's position. Her talent is enough to accept the inheritance. Lu Yuan said softly. Since you have said it so clearly, then what reason do I have not to accept it? Zhu Zhuqing said with a smile. Hearing this, Ning Fengji quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Helena was Bibidan's disciple. Although Lu Yuan liked her, and she also seemed to like Lu Yuan, she was not a member of the Dragon King Palace. Giving it to Zhu Zhuqing was indeed the best. This guy was still a bit wary of the martial soul palace. However, if one day he knew that Lu Yuan was the holy son of the martial soul palace, his expression would definitely be very good. Then it's settled. Senior Pasisi, I have already prepared an inheritor for you. As for the sea god's heart, after Zhuqing reaches the Soul Emperor realm, I will accompany her to the sea god's island. At that time, the sea god's heart will also naturally arrive. However, this matter was discussed privately. Whether the sea god will agree or not is still unknown. Senior Poseidon, would you like to ask the sea god so that we won't have wasted our time? Lu Yuan said plainly as he looked at Bai Saishi. You don't have to worry about that. After I return, I will naturally explain everything to Lord Sea God. Lord Sea God is magnanimous and will definitely not pursue this matter. As for the matter of the successor, as long as this girl has sufficient talent, she will naturally be chosen. Could it be that you have no confidence in your girlfriend? Pasisi asked. I'm naturally very confident. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Zhu Zhuqing had been tempered by the life spirit crystal, the Narcissus jade flesh, and the 100,000-year blue-silver emperor's right leg bone. Accepting the sea god's inheritance was a piece of cake. Then it's settled. Since we've finished talking, I should return to the sea god's island and report everything to the sea god. This is the map to the sea god's island. I'll give it to you now so you don't go to the wrong place. Pasisi said. A light flashed in his hand and a map appeared in his hand. Then I'll have to thank Senior Pasisi. After Zhuqing reaches the Soul Emperor realm, I will accompany her to the sea god's island. At that time, I might even bring a few companions with me. Is there a problem? Lu Yuan said with a smile. No problem. It's fine as long as the girl arrives. It's a small matter if you want to bring a few more people with you. Pasisi said. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. The sea god's island was a good place to raise one's strength. It was a good place to temper his subordinates. After all, although the angel temple had the same purpose, he was restricted by his status. He couldn't bring anyone in yet. The sea god's island solved his problem. Then I'll take my leave first. Pasisi nodded to Lu Yuan and turned to leave. Seeing that Pasisi was about to leave, Sendryu hurriedly stopped him. Pasisi, wait. You don't have to go back in such a hurry. We haven't seen each other in a long time. Why don't you stay and catch up with us? You can go back in a few days. No, the sea god's island still needs my protection. I've already spent a lot of time on the continent. I don't know how the sea god's island is now. I'm in a hurry to go back and take a look. Thank you for your kindness. If you want to catch up with me, you can come to the sea god's island. I'm always at your beck and call. Pasisi said before his figure flashed and disappeared into the horizon. Sendryu couldn't help but stretch out his hand. He looked at the horizon and sighed. Then, with a flash of golden light, Sendru's figure also disappeared. Good heavens! The moment Pasisi left, that old man immediately left. Who would believe that he didn't have feelings for her? It's a pity that Pasisi doesn't have you in his heart. Lu Yuan sighed in his heart. Chihiro Snow, who was next to Lu Yuan, also had a strange expression on her face. She realized that her grandfather seemed to treat Pasisi differently. Looking at Ibuchi's appearance, it seems like he knows something. When I go back, I can ask him. Chihiro Snow thought to herself. Since it's over, we should go. We'll come back tomorrow morning. Lu Yuan sighed and looked at Bibidon, who was standing in front of the Pope's palace. There was a hint of frivolity in his voice. Beautiful Pope, we'll take our leave first. Bibidon's face was calm. She nodded gently and said, Temple Master Lu, take care. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled and turned around to leave the arena. The next day, in the championship arena, little girl, you're not strong enough. Lu Yuan smiled as he gently held Helena's waist with his left hand and gently pinched Helena's chin with his right hand. Behind him, there were 6 figures who had been beaten to the ground. Evil Moon happened to be among them. They were the other 6 members of the Martial Soul Palace team. It's not that we're not strong enough. It's just that you're too abnormal. Helena rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and said snappily. I'll take that as a compliment. The corners of Lu Yuan's mouth curled up as he chuckled. Hearing this, Helena immediately rolled her eyes. How could this guy be so thick-skinned? How about it? You should admit defeat now. Otherwise, I'll spank your butt in public. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Their current posture was already very intimate. Helena was already shy in her heart. If she were to be spanked in the arena, she would really die of embarrassment. But fortunately, a clear and dignified voice sounded and solved Helena's predicament. In this match, the Martial Soul Palace team admits defeat. The Heavenly Star Academy team wins. Congratulations to the Heavenly Star Academy team for winning the championship of the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament. Bibidon, who was sitting on the throne at the entrance of the Pope's palace, said with a calm expression. Chapter 738. We've won. Hearing Bibidong's words, the members of the Heavenly Star battle team who were sitting in the waiting area could not help but cheer in unison. Although they all knew that with Lu Yuan's presence, it was almost certain that they would win the championship. However, when they really won the championship, everyone could not help but feel a surge of joy from the bottom of their hearts. Their hard work over the past few days hadn't been in vain. From the qualifiers to the promotion round to the finals, everyone had come all the way. Finally, their hard work had paid off, and they had won the championship. Zhu Qing, we're the champions, Ning Rongrong said excitedly as she held Zhu Zhuqing's hand. Yes, we're the champions. Zhu Zhuqing nodded lightly as a faint smile appeared on her cold face. After winning the championship, even she couldn't hide the joy in her heart. Even though Lu Yuan had taken care of the last few matches by himself, they had defeated their opponents one after another along the way. They hadn't relied on Lu Yuan alone, but the result of everyone's hard work. Now that they had won the championship, it was the best reward for everyone's hard work. Since we've already won the championship, you should let go of me. In the arena, a look of infatuation flashed across Helena's eyes as she looked at the handsome Lu Yuan. Her red lips parted slightly as a soft voice rang out. Why, you don't like me hugging you? My good senior sister. Lu Yuan smiled slightly as his lips parted slightly. He used a secret voice transmission method to transmit his voice directly into Helena's ears. Of course I like it, but this is the arena. There are tens of thousands of people watching. My junior brother, if you like hugging me, I'll let you hug me to your heart's content when we get back. Helena's lips moved slightly as she used a secret voice transmission method to transmit her voice back to Hua Yuhao. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled faintly as he scratched Helena's jade-like nose before letting go of her. On the platform in front of the Pontiff's palace, Bibidon received a brocade plate from a member of the Martial Soul Palace. There were 3 soul bones and a small white jade bottle on the brocade plate. At this time, a red-robed bishop beside Bibidon loudly said, "Heavenly Star Academy's representative, please come forward to receive the champion's reward." "Captain, go." The members of the Heavenly Star battle team shouted from below. Lu Yuan nodded, then got off the ring and walked towards Bibidon. After a while, Lu Yuan had already walked in front of Bibidon. Although he had been in close contact with Bibidon many times, this was the first time he was so close to Bibidon in public. Her jade-like beautiful face, lovely pink eyes, noble, elegant, tranquil, natural, these words could all be used on her. This woman was still as beautiful as ever. Temple Master Lu is indeed young and promising. I wonder if Temple Master Lu is interested in getting closer to our martial soul palace? Looking at Lu Yuan, Bibidon smiled and asked softly. Although her voice was soft, she did not hide it. Therefore, Ning Fengji, who was sitting not far from her, heard it clearly. Immediately, his face changed slightly. Get closer. Well, if it's getting closer to His Holiness the Pontiff, I would be very happy. After all, you're so beautiful that I can't help but feel pity for you. But if it's with the Martial Soul Palace, then forget it. I'm not that interested. Lu Yuan said softly, but teased Bibidon again. Hearing this, Bibidon's face did not change, but her eyes glared fiercely at Lu Yuan. This stinking brat has no respect for his elders. He's really addicted to teasing me. Now that there are so many people, it's not easy to do anything. Wait till we get back, let's see how I'll teach this stinking brat a lesson. Looking at Bibidon's eyes, Lu Yuan knew that things were not good. Bibidon seemed to want to settle the score after the autumn. Speaking of which, did I go overboard with my acting? I didn't, right? Lu Yuan thought to himself. It's a pity that Temple Master Lu doesn't have such thoughts. I hope your Dragon King Palace can develop better and better. Bibidon said softly, her face slightly cold. Her tone carried a trace of imperceptible coldness. This is your champion's reward. Bibidon handed the brocade plate to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan took the brocade plate and gave Bibidon a look of approval. It had to be said that Bibidon's acting skills were top-notch. They complemented each other very well. Ning Fengji was stunned. Thank you very much, Your Holiness the Pontiff. Holding the brocade plate, Lu Yuan's eyes swept across Bibidon's beautiful face again. Then, under the greedy eyes of the surrounding soul masters, he returned to where the Heavenly Star team was. Lu Yuan did not distribute the soul bones on the spot. Instead, he brought everyone back to the Holy Light Hotel. This time, Ning Fengji followed them. Holy Light Hotel, restaurant. Speaking of which, everyone is very interested in these soul bones, right? Lu Yuan asked with a smile as he pointed at the 3 soul bones on the brocade plate. As for the white jade bottle, Lu Yuan had already put it away. It was the longevity pill that Douluo Bo had lost to him in a bet. However, after going 1 round, it was still returned to his hands. Captain, who wouldn't be interested in a soul bone? It's just that there are only 3 soul bones here, and there are so many of us. We can only give these soul bones to those who need them the most. You're right. However, do you remember that I said that I would give you a big gift after the competition? Lu Yuan asked. Of course we do. However, Captain, what do you mean by that? Ling Wei asked doubtfully. The big gift I want to give everyone is the soul bones. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. He waved his hand gently, and 7 more soul bones appeared on the table. Together with the 3 on the tray, there were a total of 10 soul bones. With so many soul bones appearing at the same time, apart from Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, and Chihiro Snow who had already seen them, everyone else was shocked. Furthermore, the quality of these soul bones was extremely high. They were all over 10,000 years old. It was really rare. Abuchi, where did you get so many high-quality soul bones? Ning Fengji's heart trembled when he saw the 10 soul bones that Lu Yuan had placed on the table. His breathing became slightly hurried. It was the first time that he had seen so many soul bones over 10,000 years old placed together. It was not that Ning Fengji had not seen many soul bones before. However, The impact of Lu Yuan's 10 soul bones placed together was too great. Hihi, they're just some private collections. They're too young, and I don't think they're good enough. Therefore, I can distribute them to everyone, Lu Yuan said with a smile. They're too young, and you don't think they're good enough? Ning Fengji's mouth twitched when he saw the 10 soul bones on the table that were obviously over 10,000 years old. Soul bones over 10,000 years old could be said to be true treasures. Even the Martial Soul Palace would feel heartache after losing 3 soul bones this time. However, Ibuchi directly took out 10 soul bones that were over 10,000 years old. He actually said that they were too young, and he didn't think they were good enough. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Chapter 739. It wasn't just Ning Fengji. Other than Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong, who had heard of this before, the rest of the people's mouths twitched. It had to be said that Lu Yuan was probably the first and only person they had ever seen who would point at 10,000-year soul bones and say that he didn't care for them. However, when they thought of Lu Yuan's 200,000-year soul rings, everyone understood. After all, Lu Yuan was an extraordinary freak. His soul rings were purple, black, red, and red. It was normal for someone like him to not care for 10,000-year soul bones. Perhaps he wanted a 100,000-year soul bone. Alright, let's not talk too much. Next, let's distribute the soul bones. I can see that all of you can't wait any longer. Looking at everyone's expressions, Lu Yuan smiled and said. Soul bones were extremely attractive to ordinary soul masters. Now that they were going to distribute the soul bones, these people were already impatient. Zhuqing, this skull of wisdom is for you. Lu Yuan smiled and gave the most precious soul bone from the Martial Soul Palace to Zhu Zhuqing. This skull of wisdom was of relatively high quality. It was more than 50,000 years old. If they were to really compare, it was slightly better than Helena's dream skull of spiritual charm. After all, that skull was only 49,999 years old. But to Helena, compared to this piece, the dream skull was more suitable for her. Furthermore, Helena already had 3 soul bones. Even compared to Lu Yuan, she only had 1 less soul bone. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing nodded and took the skull of wisdom from Lu Yuan. Qinsheng, this skull is for you. Lu Yuan took out another skull from the remaining 9 soul bones and handed it to Fu Qinsheng. This skull was around 30,000 years old, and it was originally Tang Hao's soul bone. Thank you, Captain. Fu Qinsheng thanked him and took the skull from Lu Yuan. Lingwei, I'll give you this right leg bone of the storm sky tiger. Lu Yuan casually picked up a right leg bone. This right leg bone was also from Tang Hao. It was about 20,000 years old, and its quality was quite good. Similarly, Ling Wei received the soul bone after thanking him. Yanzi. Looking at Dugu Yang, Lu Yuan called out softly. Captain. Hearing Lu Yuan call her name, Dugu Yang walked in front of Lu Yuan. I'll give you this 10,000-year-old right leg bone of the 10,000-year-old dark demon scorpion. It's a bit too old, only 10,000-year-old. I'm sorry to say, but its attributes are very suitable for you, Lu Yuan said softly. Not at all. It's already very good. Thank you, Captain. Dugu Yang took the right thigh bone. Her red lips parted slightly as her delicate voice rang out. I'm fine. Lu Yuan smiled and looked at Ning Rongrong. Rongrong, come here. Is it my turn? Ning Rongrong jogged and arrived in front of Lu Yuan in a few steps. She smiled sweetly at Lu Yuan. Here, this torso bone is for you. Lu Yuan casually picked up a torso bone. This torso bone was at least 40,000 years old. Similarly, it was also Tang Hao's soul bone. It had to be said that Tang Hao was really a child of wealth. The soul bones in his body benefited Lu Yuan's subordinates. Thank you, Ibuchi. Wait for me tonight. Ning Rongrong moved closer to Lu Yuan's ear and said playfully. Hearing this, Lu Yuan looked at her strangely. Wait for you, my ass. You're so young, and I can't eat you. You'll definitely be accompanying my share tonight. What are you thinking about? Ning Rongrong naturally didn't know what Lu Yuan was thinking. She took the torso bone and skipped over to Ning Fengji's side to present it as a treasure. Qiu, this right arm bone is for you. Lu Yuan waved his hand and picked up the right arm bone on the table, which was emanating dense energy undulations. He passed it to Wang Qiu. This soul bone was an inherited soul bone from the Clear Sky sect. It was around 90,000 years old, and its shape was very complete. Its quality was very high, second only to a 100,000-year soul bone. It was also the highest quality soul bone that Lu Yuan had taken out this time. The Clear Sky sect soul bone was undoubtedly a strength-type soul bone. Such a soul bone was a perfect match for Wang Qiu. Thank you, brother. Wang Qiu took the soul bone from Lu Yuan's hand and wore a bright smile on her face. As a three-eyed golden lion, she didn't have much of an opinion about soul bones. This soul bone might be a treasure in the eyes of others, but it wasn't too rare in her eyes. However, this was something that Lu Yuan had given to her. It was given to her by her favorite brother. Therefore, she was still very happy. Jingling, Jiangzhu, come over here. Lu Yuan waved his hand, and the left leg of the Windchaser's left leg, which was awarded to him by the Martial Soul Palace, and a 10,000-year soul bone that he had obtained from killing an evil soul master. This is yours. Lu Yuan passed the Windchaser's left leg to Jingling, while he passed the other soul bone to Jiangzhu. Although they weren't part of the Dragon King Hall, they were still his teammates. Lu Yuan was never stingy to those who followed him. Thank you, leader. Jingling and Jiangzhu were a little overwhelmed after receiving the soul bone. They were the weakest, but they didn't expect to have the opportunity to obtain a soul bone. At this moment, they were very grateful to Lu Yuan. Furthermore, they were all born in ordinary families and were true commoners. To them, a 10,000-year soul bone was a treasure that only existed in legends. Are the two of you willing to join the Dragon King Hall? Lu Yuan asked softly with a smile when he saw how overwhelmed they were. Yes, we are willing. The two of them were born in ordinary families. Now that Lu Yuan had personally invited them to join the Dragon King Hall, how could they not be willing to join? All right, then from now on, the two of you are part of the Dragon King Hall. You can go back now, Lu Yuan said. Hearing this, the two of them nodded and took 2 steps back to their original positions. There are still 2 soul bones left. Fatty, Oscar, these are for the two of you. As Lu Yuan spoke, he tossed the right arm that was awarded to him by the Martial Soul Palace, and the 20,000-year skull of the Blood Emperor to Ma Hongjun and Oscar respectively. Seeing that Lu Yuan had tossed the 2 soul bones over, the two of them hurriedly caught them. Even we have a share? Oscar asked, a little surprised. Hehe, everyone has a share, Lu Yuan said with a smile. But we didn't do anything. It's not good to take this soul bone, Oscar said. What's not good about it? Boss Yuan is our brother. We'll just take the soul bone. Anyway, I've been following Boss Yuan for the rest of my life. It's just a soul bone. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Ma Hongjun didn't mind at all. This was because in his heart, Lu Yuan was his boss. Hence, there was no need to stand on ceremony. Fatty is right. We're brothers. It's just a soul bone. It's just a small matter. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Lu Yuan laughed. All right then, I'll accept it. However, if you need anything in the future, Xiao Yuan, Oscar, will do my best to help you, Oscar said in a serious tone. Chapter 740. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. With his current strength, Oscar couldn't help him much. However, Lu Yuan was very happy that Oscar was so considerate. After all, Oscar was someone who knew how to be grateful. After giving out 10 soul bones in one go, Lu Yuan's soul bone storage had shrunk significantly. Right now, he only had 1 piece of Tang Hao's 90,000-year left leg bone, 1 piece of the Blood Emperor's right arm bone, and 2 pieces of 1,000-year soul bones. In total, he only had 4 soul bones. However, Lu Yuan didn't feel the pinch. He had no use for soul bones. It was most suitable for him to give them to his companions and friends. Alright, the soul bones have been distributed. Now, everyone can go back and absorb them. Share, help Zhuqing protect her. Uncle Ning, Rongrong, Senior Jian, let's find a private room to discuss my marriage with Rongrong. Lu Yuan spoke loudly to everyone before turning to look at Ning Fengji. Alright. Hearing this, Ning Fengji nodded. Zhuqing, let's go. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan before pulling Zhuqing away. The rest of the people followed behind the two ladies. After finding a quiet private room, they served a few cups of tea. Lu Yuan and Ning Fengji sat down opposite each other. Ning Rongrong and the sword Douluo stood behind Ning Fengji. Senior Jian, Rongrong, there are no outsiders here. There's no need to be so polite. Take a seat too, Lu Yuan said softly. Uncle Jian, Rongrong, Abuchi is right. Take a seat too. Ning Fengji nodded at the two of them as he said this. Hearing this, the two of them nodded slightly and found a seat respectively. Ning Rongrong sat beside Lu Yuan. Her ice blue eyes stared fixedly at Lu Yuan, filled with deep affection. Gently squeezing Ning Rongrong's palm, Lu Yuan looked at Ning Fengji and said, I've told Uncle Ning about the general idea yesterday. We can settle things today. As for the specific wedding date, we can wait until I'm 18, because I'll be very busy in the next few years and may not have enough time. Oh, is it related to the God King test? Ning Fengji's eyes flickered as he asked softly. If Pasisi hadn't told him, he wouldn't have known. Lu Yuan wasn't going to take the test of an ordinary god, but the test of a God King. He was going to be the successor of a God King who was much stronger than ordinary gods. Yesterday, Pasisi had been overbearing and unyielding. However, after knowing that Lu Yuan was the successor of a God King, his attitude immediately softened. One could imagine that the God King was definitely in existence much stronger than the sea god behind Pasisi. No wonder Abuchi was so monstrous at such a young age. The successor of a God King was indeed extraordinary. More or less. I still have some other things to do, so Rongrong, I'm afraid that we won't have much time and opportunity to meet in the next few years. Looking at Ning Rongrong, Lu Yuan said. Ah. Hearing this, Ning Rongrong's face turned bitter. She hadn't been in a relationship with Lu Yuan for long. She didn't want to be separated from Lu Yuan for so long. If two people love each other for a long time, why would they be together day and night? Right now, compared to Zhuqing, Cher, and the others, your soul power is the lowest. It just so happens that you can cultivate well for the next few years and then work hard to catch up. You can't be left too far behind by them, right? Ning Rongrong was now 14 years old and rank 46. She was definitely a top-notch genius. However, this depended on who she was compared to. Compared to Zhuqing and Chihiro Snow, she was undoubtedly far inferior. After all, Ning Rongrong's talent wasn't as high as Chihiro Snow's, and she didn't have as many opportunities as Zhuqing, Hulena, and the others. She was the last to follow him. In this aspect, she was inevitably at a disadvantage. Alright then, I'll work hard. However, they are all too abnormal. I'm really under a lot of pressure. Ning Rongrong blinked and said with a bitter expression. I know. I don't want you to surpass them. It's fine as long as you don't fall too far behind them. After all, you are an auxiliary type soul master. It's normal for your soul power to increase a little slower. Lu Yuan said. Yes, I understand. Ning Rongrong nodded her little head. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled and turned to Ning Fengji. Uncle Ning, then this matter is settled. Let's exchange a token as proof. Exchange tokens? Ning Fengji nodded. A light flashed in his hand, and a bright and colorful token appeared in his hand. There was an exquisite 7-colored pagoda engraved on it. The entire token looked extraordinarily gorgeous and exuded a noble aura. This is the 7 treasures token. Seeing this token is equivalent to seeing the sect master. With this token, you can mobilize any forces under the 7 treasures glazed sect other than Uncle Jian and Uncle Jiyu. I'll now give it to you as a token. Ning Fengji said. 7 treasures token? Uncle Ning, you're actually willing to give such an important thing to me? Looking at the 7 treasures token in Ning Fengji's hand, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. The most precious treasure of the 7 treasures glazed sect has been taken away by you. What else am I unwilling to give? Ning Fengji glanced at Ning Rongrong and said with a chuckle. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. A light flashed in his hand, and a silver-white token with a golden dragon engraved on it appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. Since Uncle Ning is so generous, I can't be stingy. I'll use this token as a token. This is the Dragon King's token. With this token, you can command anyone under the elders of the Dragon King Hall. Dragon King's token? Looking at the Dragon King's token in Lu Yuan's hand, Ning Fengji smiled faintly. It seemed that Abuchi was also very sincere. Both parties exchanged tokens, and this matter was settled. Abuchi, from now on, Rongrong is your fiancé. You can't bully her in the future. Otherwise, even if I can't beat you, I'll come and find trouble with you. Looking at Lu Yuan, Ning Fengji said in a serious voice. Uncle Ning, don't worry. I will bully everyone in the world, but I will not bully my own woman. Rongrong is my fiancé. I will naturally hold her in the palm of my hand and spoil her. Lu Yuan said with a serious face. Abuchi. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Ning Rongrong's face bloomed with a bright smile, and directly threw herself into Lu Yuan's arms. In the past, when she was in front of Ning Fengji, she would restrain herself a little. But now that they had exchanged tokens, they were still engaged, so now she could justifiably squeeze into Lu Yuan's arms. Lu Yuan caught Ning Rongrong's delicate body with his left hand around her waist, and his right hand gently stroked her soft long hair. Ning Rongrong, on the other hand, obediently lay in Lu Yuan's arms, feeling the warmth and peace of mind. Chapter 741. At the entrance of the Holy Light Hotel, Douluo looked at Lu Yuan and asked softly, Hallmaster, are you really not coming with us? No, Zhu Qing and I still have some matters to attend to. We won't be going back with you. Furthermore, I'll be going to the Sionra Empire with Zhu Qing soon. It's closer from here. I might not be able to return to the Dragon King Hall for a long time. Elder Douluo, I'll have to trouble you and Uncle Yang to take care of the matters in the hall. Lu Yuan said. Don't worry, Hallmaster. I'll take care of everything properly, Douluo said. All right, I'm not worried about you. After hearing Douluo's words, Lu Yuan nodded. Lu Yuan trusted his ability and effectiveness. This old man was a responsible person. Little Chiu, come here. After exchanging a few words with Douluo, Lu Yuan waved at Wang Chiu. She was feeling terrible when she heard that she would be separated from him for so long. Elder brother, where are you going? Can you bring me along? I don't want to be separated from you. Wang Chiu jumped into Lu Yuan's arms. Her voice was full of attachment. I don't want to be separated from you either. However, I really have important matters to attend to. I can't bring you along. If you find it boring to stay in the Dragon King Hall, you can go to the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect with Sister Rongrong. Rongrong, is that okay with you? Lu Yuan looked at Ning Rongrong. Of course not. If Chiu wants to come to the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect, I can't wait to welcome her, Ning Rongrong said. Did you hear that? Chiu, don't you like to play with Sister Rongrong? I'll let Sister Rongrong accompany you. When I have time, I'll go to the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect to visit you. What do you think? Lu Yuan said gently as he looked at Wang Chiu's pinkish blue eyes. Will elder brother really come to visit me? Wang Chiu blinked and asked softly. Of course. When have I ever lied to you, Chiu? Lu Yuan said with a smile. Since that's the case, all right then. However, you have to remember to visit Chiu as soon as possible, Wang Chiu said crisply. Of course. I'll visit you at the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect as soon as I have time. Lu Yuan said gently as he caressed Wang Chiu's bright golden hair. Okay, you have to remember what you said, Wang Chiu said again. Big brother will. Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile when he heard Wang Chiu's repeated emphasis. This sister of his is really clingy. Rongrong, Take good care of Chiao for me. Lu Yuan turned around and said to Ning Rongrong. Don't worry, I will. Chiao is also my sister, Ning Rongrong said. Lu Yuan nodded. 15 minutes later, Douluo left with everyone. With Douluo, a rank 94 soul Douluo, and the sword Douluo and Ning Fengji accompanying them, there was no need to worry about their safety. Lu Yuan only retracted his gaze when he saw everyone's figures gradually disappear. Abuchi, are we returning to the martial soul palace? Zhu Zhuqing asked softly. Yes, we'll return to the martial soul palace first. Cher's second round of the heavenly angel trial isn't over yet. I'll accompany you to the Sionra Empire after her second round is over. Lu Yuan said gently as he looked at Zhu Zhuqing. I'll listen to you. I have no objections, Zhu Zhuqing said. Cher, what about you? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow. You've already arranged everything so clearly. What else can I say? Chihiro Snow shrugged and said. Lu Yuan smiled faintly when he heard this. He held the two women's hands and walked slowly in the direction of the Martial Soul Palace. After entering the Martial Soul Palace, Chihiro Snow went straight back to the Angel Temple, while Lu Yuan brought Zhu Zhuqing to the island in the middle of the lake. After sending Zhu Zhuqing back to her room, Lu Yuan rushed to the pavilion in the middle of the lake alone. Bibidon was sitting there, sipping tea alone. She was rather relaxed. Teacher, why are you in such a good mood today? Why aren't you going to the Pontiff's palace to deal with official matters? Why are you sitting here drinking tea alone? Lu Yuan sat down beside Bibidon and asked with a smile. Bibidon was a very diligent pontiff. She never slacked off when it came to official matters. Normally, she would be reviewing documents in the pontiff's palace at this time. Lu Yuan didn't expect her to be sitting here drinking tea. I've been waiting for you. Bibidon put down her teacup and looked at Lu Yuan with a half-smile. Waiting for me? Teacher, are you looking for me for something? Looking at Bibidon's expression, Lu Yuan felt a chill in his heart. He had a bad feeling, but his expression didn't change at all. He pretended to be puzzled and asked. Hehe, teacher just hasn't been close to you for a long time. I want to get closer to you. Bibidon chuckled, then suddenly reached out and pinched Lu Yuan's ear. Bibidon's speed was extremely fast, and her soul power was far above Lu Yuan's. This time, Lu Yuan couldn't dodge at all. Hiss. Having his ear pinched by Bibidon, Lu Yuan immediately sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly begged for mercy. Teacher, let go, it hurt. You also know pain? These 2 days when you were teasing teacher, you seemed to enjoy it a little. At that time, you were very bold. Now you know pain? Bibidon sneered. Teacher, that was all an act. It was all fake. Lu Yuan hurriedly explained. Is it really just a simple act? You stinking brat, didn't you think of taking the opportunity to tease your teacher? Bibidon asked. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's body couldn't help but stop. He was slightly shocked. How did Bibidon know what he was thinking at that time? This woman is too smart. Heh, teacher was right. Seeing that Lu Yuan was stunned, Bibidon sneered. The strength in her hand suddenly increased by 30%, causing Lu Yuan to grimace in pain. Teacher, let go. Lu Yuan wailed. Teacher won't let go. Today, I will teach you a lesson, you stinking brat. Your courage is really getting bigger and bigger. You even dare to tease your teacher. Regarding Lu Yuan's wailing, Bibidon turned a blind eye. The strength in her hand didn't decrease in the slightest. Looking at Bibidon's beautiful face with a hint of a sneer, lightly smelling the delicate fragrance coming from Bibidon's body, and feeling the bursts of pain by his ear, an inexplicable impulse emerged from the bottom of Lu Yuan's heart. Teacher, if you don't let go, I will fight back. Lu Yuan said softly. You still dare to fight back? Why don't you try fighting back? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon laughed angrily. This stinking brat dares to overturn the heavens today? Teacher, you said it. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's indifferent voice sounded. He tilted his head abruptly, and a huge force burst forth. His strength was so great that with this sudden struggle, Bibidon's jade-like hand didn't tighten, and Lu Yuan actually broke free. At the same time, under the influence of that huge force, Bibidon's delicate body, who was originally sitting on the stone bench, couldn't help but falling in the direction of Lu Yuan. Seeing Bibidon's delicate body falling towards him, Lu Yuan couldn't help but open his arms. Bibidon's delicate body directly fell on his body, and he hugged her tightly. Chapter 742. With a burst of fragrant wind, Bibidon's delicate body directly fell into Lu Yuan's embrace. That instant of softness caused Lu Yuan's heart to tremble. When he recovered, his hands had already unconsciously wrapped around Bibidon's waist. Bibidon's waist was very delicate. The feeling of holding it was very wonderful, causing Lu Yuan to be somewhat reluctant to let go. Bibidon's body instinctively grabbed Lu Yuan's neck in order to protect herself from falling. Her jade-like face and Lu Yuan's handsome face were extremely close, and they could smell each other's breaths. This was the first time Lu Yuan was so close to Bibidon. For a moment, his heart was greatly shaken, and his heart couldn't help but beat faster. Bibidon was even more so. She had never been so close to a man before. At this moment, the masculine scent of Lu Yuan's body constantly entered her nose, causing her heart to tremble violently. His double pupils flickered, directly facing Bibidon's pink eyes. Bibidon's eyes were the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen. This was because Bibidon's eyes seemed to be able to speak. Her eyes were sad, and weak. Her eyes were so lovely and moving, so touching that people couldn't help but secretly feel pity for her. The two of them looked straight at each other. With such an accident happening so suddenly, their hearts were actually surging with emotions. Bibidon was so close to a man for the first time. Moreover, this person was her own disciple, so her heart was greatly shaken, and she couldn't recover for a while. As for Lu Yuan, it was purely because the person in his arms was Bibidon. If it were any other woman, he wouldn't feel this way. This wasn't to say that he loved Bibidon the most in his heart, but Bibidon was very special to him. This was a woman he had loved for a long time, but couldn't obtain. Suddenly being so close to her, Lu Yuan's heart naturally couldn't calm down. Bibidon's breathing was a bit hurried. Because they were so close, the hot air she breathed out hit Lu Yuan's face. This made Lu Yuan, who was already in an indescribable mood, suddenly feel a strange desire from the bottom of his heart. His double pupils flickered. Looking at Bibidon's slightly trembling cherry lips, Lu Yuan slowly moved closer. Woo! With her cherry lips blocked, Bibidon suddenly opened her eyes wide. She looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of disbelief in her eyes, as if she didn't expect him to do this. Her delicate body stiffened on the spot. Abuchi, how dare he? Bibidon's delicate body stiffened. This was the only thought left in her mind, and nothing else. She really didn't expect Lu Yuan to be so daring as to kiss her. She was his teacher. In fact, she didn't know that Lu Yuan's long-suppressed feelings had suddenly exploded. Even he found it difficult to restrain himself. Usually, for various reasons, he suppressed his feelings. However, when it came to feelings, the more he suppressed them, the more powerful they would be when they exploded. Today's sudden accident became a fuse that ignited the feelings in Lu Yuan's heart. His left hand held Bibidon's waist, his right hand stroked Bibidon's soft long hair, and once again kissed Bibidon a few times. Lu Yuan slightly tilted his head. His pair of eyes looked at Bibidon, and the burning emotions in his eyes were undisguised. At this moment, there was only Bibidon in his eyes. Everything else was thrown out of the window. When Lu Yuan released her cherry lips, Bibidon was dazed for a moment, and then her mind began to gradually return to normal. Looking at Lu Yuan in front of her, Bibidon's feelings were complicated. She suddenly raised her hand and wanted to give Lu Yuan a slap. The wind from her palm whistled. Seeing that Bibidon's palm was about to land on Lu Yuan's face, she suddenly stopped. Bibidon sighed softly, and her jade-like hand gently stroked Lu Yuan's face. Lu Yuan liked her. No matter how stupid she was, she had already seen through it by now. In fact, with her intelligence, she should have seen through it long ago. It was just that at that time, She was covered up by their relationship as teacher and disciple, so she couldn't see through it for a while. She thought that Lu Yuan was so close to her only because of his attachment to his teacher. Now it seemed that attachment was still attachment, but it wasn't the kind of attachment to his teacher, but the love between a man and a woman. If it wasn't for Lu Yuan's kiss today, she was afraid that even after a long time, she wouldn't have realized that Lu Yuan actually liked her. And what made her panic the most was that other than the anger when Lu Yuan kissed her at the beginning, she didn't feel that kind of disgust in her heart. Instead, her heart was beating slightly faster. What's wrong with me? Am I possessed? Bibidon secretly asked herself in her heart. Feeling Bibidon's jade-like hand gently stroking his face, Lu Yuan's eyes trembled slightly. Just now, he thought that Bibidon would directly slap him, but he didn't expect that Bibidon would actually stop at the last moment. Could it be that Bibidon also had such feelings for him in her heart? Lu Yuan secretly thought in his heart. In fact, Lu Yuan's guess was right. After going through so many things, Bibidon's heart had already developed a strong dependence on Lu Yuan. After all, Lu Yuan was the person in the world who understood her the most. It was inevitable that she would develop a dependence on him. No matter how strong Bibidon was, she was still a woman after all. After relying on him for so long, coupled with the intimate hug last time, Bibidon's heart had already quietly changed without her knowing. Otherwise, when Lu Yuan held her jade-like hand and she gently stroked Lu Yuan's face, it wouldn't be so natural. This had already surpassed the intimacy of ordinary master and disciple. It was just that Bibidon herself was still bound by the master-disciple relationship, and couldn't see through it for a while. But now, Lu Yuan's kiss directly made Bibidon clearly understand Lu Yuan's feelings for her. It also made some thoughts in her heart that she hadn't been aware of before quietly reveal themselves. No matter what, from today onwards, if Bibidon still wanted to purely treat Lu Yuan as a disciple, it was already impossible. Old. Lu Yuan opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but his lips were directly sealed by a slender finger. Abuchi, teacher will not pursue the matter of you offending teacher today. But this matter ends here. After today, you can forget about it. Moreover, in the future, you should keep a little distance between teacher and you. Bibidon's expression was calm as she said lightly, "Teacher." Hearing this, Lu Yuan's expression froze. Keeping a distance from Bibidon might have been possible in the past, but after today, could he still do it? He himself didn't dare to believe that he could do it. And from the bottom of his heart, he really didn't want to keep a distance from Bibidon. Chapter 743. Abuchi, you shouldn't have fallen in love with teacher, Bibidon said softly as he gently caressed Lu Yuan's face. Teacher, is there anything wrong with liking someone? If feelings can be controlled, can they still be called feelings? You should know this better than I do. Back then, you were like a moth to a flame. You only wanted to be with Yu Xiaogang. Lu Yuan grabbed Bibi Dong's lily-white hand that was placed on his lips. He stared into Bibi Dong's eyes and said with a serious expression. Teacher is different from you, Bibidon said. What's the difference? Compared to when teacher fell in love with the enemy of the martial soul palace, I fell in love with my own teacher. At the very least, the entire martial soul palace strongly opposed your actions back then. Perhaps they would be surprised if they knew about the matter between you and me, but there are definitely not many people who oppose it. After all, the relationship between the martial soul palace and the blue lightning tyrant dragon sect is irreconcilable. They are natural opposites. However, we are merely master and disciple. I don't care. At worst, you can just expel me from the sect. In any case, I have never treated you as my teacher since a long time ago. Lu Yuan shook his head and said. Abuchi, you. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon was furious. So this brat had been coveting him since a long time ago. You really should be hit. Bibi Dong stretched out his free right hand and pointed a finger at Lu Yuan as he enunciated each and every word clearly. Then teacher, please hit me. This time, I promise I won't dodge, Lu Yuan said. Do you really think teacher can't bear to hit you? Bibidon said sternly. I've never thought of it that way. I've never been able to figure out what you're thinking. For example, I've only just found out that you like me, but you refuse to admit it, Lu Yuan said calmly. Who likes you? Nonsense. Hearing those words, Bibidon acted as if his reverse scale had been touched. He abruptly raised his right hand and directly threw a slap at Lu Yuan's face. Pa! Bibidon's jade-like hand came into close contact with Lu Yuan's face, and a resounding slap resounded. A red handprint appeared on Lu Yuan's face. Why didn't you dodge? Seeing that Lu Yuan didn't even try to dodge her slap, Bibidon was shocked. Her cherry lips trembled as she asked. I said that I won't dodge, so naturally, I won't dodge. Could it be that teacher thinks I'm lying to you? Lu Yuan said in a flat tone. Hearing this, Bibidon's heart trembled. She pursed her lips and remained silent for a long time. After a while, her jade-like hand gently caressed the red handprint on Lu Yuan's face. There was a trace of tenderness in her eyes. Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. As long as teacher doesn't leave me and doesn't purposely keep a distance from me, you can hit me as much as you want, Lu Yuan said softly. Sigh. Bibidon sighed deeply when she heard Lu Yuan's words. Teacher, you like me, don't you? Lu Yuan exerted force with his left hand and hugged Bibidon even tighter. Immediately, the two of them were extremely close again. Stop messing around, Abuchi. It's impossible between us. I'm almost 50. I'm so much older than you. We really aren't suitable for each other, Bibidon said. What's there to be unsuitable for? Height isn't a difference, and age isn't a problem. Teacher, you're so young. Apart from the beauty of age, you're no different from an 18-year-old girl. Besides, once we become gods, our lifespans will be endless. What's a mere few decades of age difference? Tens of thousands of years later, you'll only be a fraction of my age. Lu Yuan pursed his lips and said nonchalantly. Bibidon being a few decades older than him was nothing. Jiu Yuana was a few 100,000 years older than him, but she was still with him. Moreover, he had the experience of his past life. Adding all of that together, Bibidon wasn't much older than him. This was also the important reason why he had always treated Bibidon as an older sister. After all, he was an adult. If he suddenly became the disciple of a young and beautiful teacher, could he really treat her as an elder or like a mother? Don't joke around. It was impossible. After all, although he was young at that time, his soul wasn't a child's. Treating her as an older sister was the most normal thing to do. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon's delicate body froze. Lu Yuan's words made so much sense that she couldn't refute them. Moreover, Lu Yuan didn't care about her age. She also felt a faint joy in her heart. After all, she was getting older. Although she still looked young, she always felt that she was old. This was because her heart was tired. Now that Lu Yuan's words rang out, her heart felt like it was slowly recovering. Seeing that Bibidon was silent, Lu Yuan chuckled and said, "What do you think, teacher? Do I make a lot of sense?" Hearing this, Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan and said, "Even if we don't talk about age, I'm still your teacher. This is something that the entire Martial Soul Palace knows. Also, have you considered your senior sister? It's just a master-disciple relationship. I've said it before. You can just expel me from the sect. At that time, you won't be my teacher anymore. What problem can there be? Moreover, I know senior sister very well. She won't object. Moreover, senior sister has already sensed my feelings for you." Lu Yuan shook his head and said, "Then what about Cher? The master-disciple relationship isn't a problem. Then, how do you plan to deal with the relationship between Cher and me? If Cher knows that you like me, what will she think?" Bibidon questioned. Teacher, let me say something. Don't get agitated. In fact, Cher already knows that I like you. She has already made a promise with me. As long as I don't have any improper relationship with you, she will accept it. Teacher, I'm not really asking you to be with me. I just don't want to be far away from you. Lu Yuan said sincerely. Hearing this, Bibidon was silent again. Lu Yuan's words really shocked her. She didn't expect Chihiro Snow to know that Lu Yuan liked her. This made her heart surge. Looking at Lu Yuan, Bibidon's eyes flashed with a touch of complexity. Did she like Lu Yuan? She wanted to say that she didn't like him, but she couldn't get rid of that special feeling in her heart. It was also this special feeling that made her realize that her feelings for Lu Yuan weren't just a simple master-disciple relationship. Therefore, she couldn't say that she didn't like him. However, if she was asked to accept Lu Yuan now, she definitely couldn't do it. After all, that kind of feeling wasn't that deep. Moreover, the master-disciple relationship of many years couldn't be changed all of a sudden. She needed time, enough time. Chapter 744. Perhaps it was just as Lu Yuan had said. Maintaining their current relationship, not too close, but not too far apart, was the most suitable for the two of them. Bibidon thought to herself. Bibidon's thoughts were correct, but she had neglected the most important point. She was no longer the same person as before. When she began to understand her own feelings, and also understood Lu Yuan's love for her, could the two of them really continue to be together like this? It was simply impossible. As time passed, the feelings between them would only grow deeper and deeper until they reached a point where they could not extricate themselves from it. However, neither Bibidon nor Lu Yuan had thought of this point. Or rather, they had not thought that far ahead at all. The two of them were the smartest people in the world. When it came to scheming against others, one was more shrewd than the other. However, when it came to feelings, they were not much smarter than ordinary people. On the contrary, sometimes, they were even more foolish. Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan's polychoria, which was right in front of her, and asked softly, "Little brat, when did you start having such improper thoughts about your teacher?" She was really curious. When did this disciple of hers start to like her, and why did he like her? Could it be that her charm was really that great? Lu Yuan sniffed Bibidon's fragrance and asked softly, "Well, that would have to start from a few years ago. Teacher, do you still remember that time when I had just obtained my polychoria when we left the life historical remnant? Do you still remember that time when you asked me to demonstrate it to you when we left the life historical remnant? I remember. At that time, the power of your polychoria really shocked me. Thinking back to the scene where Lu Yuan's light of primal chaos directly annihilated the lake water, Bibidon was still a little surprised. It really left a deep impression on her. It had to be said that Lu Yuan's polychoria was really too powerful. Just the first light of primal chaos was enough to make Bibidon raise her eyebrows. Teacher, actually, my polychoria has another characteristic, which is to ignore all kinds of illusions and see through all kinds of strange things. When my polychoria is activated, I can see through everything. At that time, I had just obtained my polychoria and was not able to control it freely. When you asked me to turn around, I didn't control my eyesight well, and me what? Bibidon had a bad premonition in her heart. Lu Yuan's eyes slightly evaded her gaze, and said in a low voice, "I saw your entire body, from top to bottom, without missing anything." However, Bibidon's cultivation was high, and she was close to him. Even though Lu Yuan's voice was soft, she still heard it clearly. "What did you say?" Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon could not help but exclaim. Her pretty face suddenly turned red. At the same time, there was a little brat naked. A little brat. "You little brat, why didn't you say it back then?" Bibidon grabbed Lu Yuan's ear and asked sternly. "If I had said it back then, I was afraid you would have slapped me to death on the spot," Lu Yuan said helplessly. Bibidon fell silent. Although she also loved Lu Yuan back then, it was nothing compared to now. Moreover, she was deeply in love with Yu Xiaogang back then. If Lu Yuan had really said that he had seen her naked, then she really might have attacked Lu Yuan back then. "Then you dare to say it to teacher now? Aren't you afraid teacher will slap you to death?" However, no matter what, Bibidon still felt a little uncomfortable. "Teacher, you can't bear to slap me to death now," Lu Yuan giggled, then took advantage of Bibidon's inattention to peck her lips again. "Little brat, you're addicted, aren't you?" After being attacked by Lu Yuan again, Bibidon directly grabbed Lu Yuan's ear and twisted it fiercely, causing Lu Yuan to wail in pain again. However, Bibidon directly ignored Lu Yuan's wail. When she let go of her lily-white hand, Lu Yuan's ear had already turned red. "Teacher, are you not angry anymore?" Feeling the pain in his ear, Lu Yuan first grimaced, then looked at Bibidon and asked tentatively. "With you here, teacher will be angered to death by you sooner or later." Bibidon rolled her eyes and said snappily, "Now teacher knows why my mind changed. I have seen your naked body, how can my mentality not change?" Lu Yuan said. "You're still talking about it." Hearing this, Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan. This brat, can't he just say it once and be done with it? Why is he talking about it again and again? Hehe, let's not talk about this anymore. I just want to say that no matter what happens, I will never abandon teacher in this life. I don't know what you think, but I will always be by your side. I will always be by your side. Lu Yuan caressed Bibidon's beautiful face and said in a sincere tone. "Abuchi." Hearing Lu Yuan's sincere words, Bibidong's heart skipped a beat. That special feeling that she already had seemed to have become even stronger. Looking at Bibidong's beautiful face, Lu Yuan's heart skipped a beat, and he once again covered her delicate cherry lips. This time, it was not a sneak attack, but an open and above-board kiss. Bibidon wanted to refuse, but facing Lu Yuan's burning gaze, her lily-white hands on Lu Yuan's chest could not exert any strength. Chaotic, if there was a word to describe Bibidon's current mood, then there was only one word that could be used to describe it. Lu Yuan gently kissed Bibidon's cherry lips. The feeling of kissing Bibidon was more wonderful than anyone else's. That kind of feeling could not be described with words. Bibidon was undoubtedly very inexperienced, but under Lu Yuan's lead, she quickly became intoxicated. With her eyes slightly closed, Bibidong was exceptionally obedient at this moment. She did not move at all and allowed Lu Yuan to take advantage of her. And for some reason, the feeling of Lu Yuan kissing her was somewhat familiar to her. It seemed that a long time ago, someone had kissed her so gently. But thinking about it carefully, there was no such memory in her mind. This feeling made Bibidon a little surprised in her heart. After a long time, their lips parted. Bibidon woke up as if from a dream. Her pink eyes carried a trace of confusion. After a while, she slowly recovered. Lu Yuan carefully paid attention to the changes in Bibidon's face, and there was a big smile on his face. Bibidon might be stubborn, but her reaction betrayed her heart. If she really did not have any love for him, if she really only regarded him as a disciple, then she would definitely resist just now, and it would be a fierce resistance, not like just now, where she was half-hearted and half-willing. "Teacher, my feeling is not wrong. You really do like me in your heart." Lu Yuan whispered softly in Bibidon's ear, and once again hit Bibidon's heart hard, making her mood couldn't help but violently tumble again. Chapter 745. In the pavilion in the middle of the lake, Lu Yuan and Bibidon were tightly hugging each other. At a corner not far away, a woman in a platinum robe slowly retracted her gaze. She had a complicated expression on her face as she lightly sighed. Seeing this scene, your heart must be very uncomfortable, right? A slightly cold voice sounded beside her ear, causing her to involuntarily turn around. "It's you, Zhuqing." Seeing the person who came, her expression changed slightly as she softly sighed. "Seeing your teacher and junior brother hugging so intimately, your heart must be very uncomfortable, right, Hulena?" Zhuqing asked again. "It's all right. Actually, I was already prepared for this scene." Hulena shook her head and said, "Oh, it's just as Qian Renxue said. You've sensed it long ago." Zhuqing said softly as she repeated the words that Qian Renxue had said that day. She also sensed it. She is indeed the smartest person among us. Her observation skills are indeed very detailed. She also understands Abuchi very well. Naturally, I'm not as smart as her, but my heart is much smaller than hers. In her heart, other than Abuchi, there is also the martial soul palace and the great cause. However, in my heart, there is only Abuchi. Guessing Abuchi's thoughts is what I usually do the most. Abuchi and I have slept on the same bed since we were 6 years old. My understanding of Abuchi is no less than anyone else's. Ever since I found out that he was looking at teacher, I knew that this day would come sooner or later. I just didn't expect it to come so soon. Helena shook her head and said, "From your appearance, you don't seem to be too against it." Zhu Zhuqing said with slight surprise. "There's nothing to resist. Although I treat my teacher as my mother, in fact, she and I are only master and disciple. Although I feel a little uncomfortable, if little Yuan and my teacher are really in love with each other, I have no objection. I also hope that my teacher can find her own happiness. My teacher, in fact, has had a hard time. Although she usually doesn't say anything, I can feel her pain. Only when Abuchi is by her side would she reveal that kind of happy smile. In fact, I have seen all of this, so I don't find it strange at all." Helena said softly. "But your heart still feels somewhat unnatural, right?" Zhu Zhuqing said. "Of course. I also need time to adapt." Helena turned to Zhu Zhuqing and said, "But you don't seem to care at all." "Why should I care? I have nothing to do with His Holiness the Pope. The one who should care is not me, but Chihiro Snow. However, according to her agreement with Abuchi, the current Abuchi hasn't crossed the line. She should be too lazy to care," Zhu Zhuqing said. "She doesn't now, but it's hard to say in the future. The more they hug and kiss, the more they will inevitably want to take the next step. Whether it's teacher or Abuchi, they are the same. Now they are suppressing it with reason, but it doesn't mean that they will be able to maintain the final distance between them. So, regarding the matter between Abuchi and teacher, you have to persuade Chihiro Snow when you are free. If something really happens, she will be mentally prepared. She won't be so agitated and make things irreversible." Helena said with a serious face. "Why don't you tell her yourself?" Zhu Zhuqing asked. "My relationship with her has never been very harmonious. Even after Abuchi's mediation, my relationship with her is not as natural as yours. It's best for you to persuade her. Alas, that hateful Abuchi, he got himself into trouble and made us worry." Helena's tone was a little resentful. "Yes, this guy is endless. It's fine if he has it now, but if he dares to go out and provoke her again, I will have to cut him." With a trace of cold light in her eyes, Zhu Zhuqing said coldly. Hearing Zhu Zhuqing's words, Helena took a deep breath and said, "Hiss, that's ruthless. No wonder he sometimes calls you a little wild cat. You are really wild. It's all because of him. This guy started with the three of us, then Jiu Yuana, then Rong Rong, and now more than half of His Holiness the Pope has been conquered by him. If we let him continue, he will turn the sky upside down. If we really let him have 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, 6 is already my bottom line. If he wants more, it's impossible." Zhu Zhuqing said with a trace of determination on her cold face. "Yes, it is indeed enough. If there are more, it will really be chaotic. Moreover, with teacher's domineering character, if she really gets together with Abuchi, let alone those of us who have already established a relationship, it will be impossible for Abuchi to find her again. Not to mention finding her again, even if he dares to have such thoughts, he will be beaten into a pig's head by teacher." Helena said, as if she was thinking of that scene, and the corner of her mouth could not help but show a slight smile. "You should treat him like this, otherwise he will never change," Zhu Zhuqing said, and a faint smile flashed across her eyes. The scorching sun was overhead, wantonly emitting light and heat. On the stone table in the pavilion in the middle of the lake, there was already a full plate of food. Lu Yuan, Bibidon, Helena, and Zhu Zhuqing were eating. Lu Yuan sat next to Bibidon. On his right side was Helena, and opposite him was Zhu Zhuqing. Bibidon seemed to have recovered a long time ago. He ate his food in an orderly manner, and his expression was indifferent. Her ability to accept things was extremely strong. After all, she had a lot of experience, and her will was strong. Although Lu Yuan's kiss today opened her heart and made her slowly realize her feelings for Lu Yuan, and her mood was extremely complicated. After so long, although her mood had not completely calmed down, it was not difficult for her to control her emotions and not be noticed. It could be said that the current Bibidon still looked indifferent, and his temperament was graceful and luxurious. Bibidon recovered quickly, and so did Lu Yuan. His expression was as calm as water, and his eyes were deep. From time to time, he would pick up food for the three of them, and there was nothing wrong with him. It was as if kissing Bibidon just now did not affect him at all. If Hulena and Zhu Zhuqing had not seen Lu Yuan's behavior with their own eyes, they might not have noticed anything. Looking at Bibidon and Lu Yuan, who were normal, Zhu Zhuqing and Hulena looked at each other and could not help but exclaim in their hearts. The two guys in front of them, without mentioning anything else, had the ability to control their emotions. No wonder they performed so well when they cooperated to deceive Ning Fengji. She was already able to control her emotions to a certain extent. She was truly a natural-born actress. Chapter 746. The atmosphere at the table was very quiet. Bibidon didn't speak, Lu Yuan didn't speak, and Hulena could only communicate with Zhu Zhuqing through their eyes. This was completely different from the past. In the past, when they ate together, Lu Yuan was the most active. He was basically the one who opened up the atmosphere. However, today, he was strangely quiet. At that time, he couldn't help but kiss Bibidon. He even used the anger in his chest to reveal everything to Bibidon. In the end, he even kissed Bibidon again. In fact, when Lu Yuan came to his senses, he admired himself for his boldness at that time. This was Bibidon, not an ordinary person. He actually kissed her twice in a row. If he added the peck when she wasn't paying attention, it would be 3 times. His guts were truly boundless. But then again, the feeling of kissing Bibidon was really good. Her cherry lips were sweet and soft. It was very memorable. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan unconsciously turned his gaze to Bibidon's rosy lips. Although Lu Yuan's gaze was hidden, Bibidon immediately noticed it with her cultivation. She immediately glared at Lu Yuan. This guy, he's actually thinking about these things while eating. He's really getting more and more impudent. If Hulena and Zhu Zhuqing weren't present, she would have the urge to pull Lu Yuan's ear again. After being glared at by Bibidon, Lu Yuan immediately withdrew his gaze in embarrassment and obediently ate his meal. Not long after, the few of them finished their lunch in this strange atmosphere. What are you going to do next? Continue with your second test of the holy sword? Bibidon held a cup of tea and took a sip. She looked at Lu Yuan and asked in a gentle voice. Yes, I'll finish the second test first. After that, I'll accompany Zhu Qing to the Star Luo Empire and cancel the engagement, Lu Yuan replied. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon glanced at Zhu Zhuqing with a strange look in her eyes. Cancel the engagement? She didn't feel anything strange when she was only master and disciple with Lu Yuan. However, after being kissed by Lu Yuan today, she started to notice the strange feeling in her heart. She didn't know why, but she felt a little uncomfortable when she saw Lu Yuan being nice to others. However, Bibidon was Bibidon after all. This little bit of emotion couldn't affect her. It's still possible to cancel the engagement. Given the current situation, it shouldn't be difficult for you to do so. However, to avoid any danger, such as the Sionra Empire becoming angry out of humiliation, you should bring a few more people with you. It's best if you bring the Dragon Emperor Douluo with you. With him around, no one in the Sionra Empire should be able to touch you. Bibidon spoke softly with a tinge of concern in her voice. I know, but teacher, are you concerned about me? Lu Yuan nodded first, then looked at Bibidon with a smile on his face. For some reason, he liked to tease Bibidon when he was free. After that, he would look at Bibidon's pretty face with an annoyed look. It was a very interesting feeling. Yes, is there a problem with a teacher being concerned about his disciple? Bibidon emphasized the words teacher and disciple. After that, she glanced at Hulena and Zhu Zhuqing. What she meant was that there were still people present, and she wanted Lu Yuan to pay attention to his identity. Of course there's no problem, Lu Yuan chuckled and said. Naturally, he understood Bibidong's meaning at a glance. However, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Bibidon still had a lot of worries in her heart. She was very concerned about how others viewed her. Most importantly, although Bibidon liked him a little, their relationship hadn't completely changed from that of a teacher and disciple to that of a man and woman. He couldn't be too impatient. Bibidon still needed time to adapt to the change in her mentality. Since you want to continue with your second test of the Holy Sword, you can go now. It's about time. Looking at the smile on Lu Yuan's face, Bibidon felt a little helpless. She really couldn't do anything to Lu Yuan. She could be cruel and merciless to others, and even slaughter their entire families. However, when it came to Lu Yuan, she would feel a little heartache even if she slapped him. What an enemy! Bibidon sighed in her heart. Teacher, I just finished eating. You're chasing me away now? Do you dislike seeing me that much? Lu Yuan said loudly, but there was a trace of a smile in his eyes. Yes, seeing a little bastard like you annoys me. That's why I've already finished eating. Hurry up and get lost. It's enough with your senior sister and Zhu Qing accompanying me. You don't have to stand here and be an eyesore, Bibidon said snappily. Sigh, all right then. Then I'll get lost first. I won't disturb teacher's mood of drinking tea. Lu Yuan pretended to be sad and said. Seeing Lu Yuan's appearance, Helena couldn't help but laugh. This stinky junior brother was really a drama queen. Then I'll be leaving. You guys chat. Lu Yuan smiled gently. Soul power circulated, and a golden dragon shadow appeared under his feet. The dragon roared loudly, and his body turned into a golden light, disappearing on the spot. In the angel temple, a golden light flashed past. Looking at the golden vortex in the chest of the huge angel statue, Lu Yuan's figure didn't stop, and directly disappeared into it. Angel's secret realm, 9 steps celestial stairway. At the 8th step of the celestial stairway, Chihiro Snow's figure was sitting cross-legged. She was wearing an ice blue long dress, and 4 pairs of snow-white wings were gently flapping behind her, making her look so pure and noble. At the bottom of the 1st step of the celestial stairway, Lu Yuan's figure appeared. Looking at Chihiro Snow, who was cultivating on the 8th step, his feet moved slightly, and in a moment, he reached the 8th step. It seems that Cher has adapted well. After staying on the 8th step for another month, she can try to climb the 9th step. Looking at Chihiro Snow, who was frowning slightly after receiving the 8th step of the Holy Light body tempering, Lu Yuan's mouth curled up slightly. Chihiro Snow's improvement was somewhat beyond his expectations. It seems that the matter of him absorbing a fierce beast-level soul ring still brought a lot of pressure to Chihiro Snow, making this girl's desire to become stronger even stronger. This girl is stubborn and wants to catch up with his footsteps so that he won't be left too far behind. Now that she has made such progress, it made him feel quite gratified. You're here. As if sensing Lu Yuan's arrival, Chihiro Snow directly woke up from her cultivation state. Looking at Lu Yuan in front of her, she had a gentle smile on her face. Well, I'm here. I've dealt with most of the things that need to be dealt with. The rest of the time is to accompany you to complete the second exam. Lu Yuan said with a smile. At least you still have some conscience. You came quickly enough. I thought you would at least accompany your teacher for a few days. I didn't expect you to come in just half a day. It really surprised me. Looking at Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow said meaningfully. Chapter 747. You little brat. Listening to Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan shook his head helplessly. This little brat is reminding me again, afraid that I and Bibidon will regret it forever. But if she knows that I just kissed Bibidon in the morning, will she go berserk and beat me up on the spot? I don't think so. After all, she said that I'm not allowed to have a real relationship with Bibidon. Now he and Bibidon are just playing around. Chihiro Snow shouldn't go berserk. But that being said, Lu Yuan didn't have the slightest intention of telling Chihiro Snow that he kissed Bibidon. Otherwise, who knows what will happen? It's better to not do such things that seek death. I'll keep the matter of kissing Bibidon a secret. It's good that only the two of them know. It's also a secret between them. Lu Yuan secretly thought in his heart. However, Lu Yuan's plan was indeed very good. But he never thought that the matter of him and Bibidon kissing was actually seen by Hulena and Zhu Zhuqing. Neither of these two girls was honest. He let them stay in the room, but they followed him from afar and hid in the corner to see everything. At that time, he and Bibidon were both shocked and intoxicated by that kiss. They didn't even notice that someone was peeping. So he still naively thought that the matter between him and Bibidon wasn't discovered. One can imagine, if one day he knew about this matter, his expression should be very interesting. It seems that you've adapted to the 8th level. Looking at Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan changed the topic and said. He didn't want to talk too much about Bibidon's problem, especially with Chihiro Snow. This made him feel a little depressed. So, he took the initiative to change the topic. Indeed, I've almost adapted to it. Although it's still a little uncomfortable to use the holy light to refine my body, I can already endure it. After another month, the 8th step shouldn't be too difficult for me. At that time, I can try to break through the 9th step of the celestial ladder. Chihiro Snow said softly. Yes, in a month, you can indeed set foot on the 9th level. But the 9th level is much more terrifying than the 8th. Not only is the holy light much denser, the pressure is doubled. What's more terrifying is the holy flame that exceeds the temperature of ordinary ultimate fire. With your current strength, you can't resist that thing. So, when you reach the 9th level, I'll go up with you so that it'll be convenient to take care of you. Lu Yuan nodded. All right, I'll listen to you. Chihiro Snow said gently. Then you continue to cultivate. I'll make a trip to the 9th level. This time, I want to challenge the holy flame without the protection of the golden dragon armor. This should be able to temper my physique further. Lu Yuan said. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow's expression changed, and he reminded him worriedly, then you have to be careful. Don't hurt yourself. I will. Don't worry. Lu Yuan smiled gently. Then, his figure flashed, and he directly went up to the 9th level. The temperature of the 9th level was extremely terrifying. Just as he stepped in, Lu Yuan's clothes were ignited by the terrifying temperature. They were instantly burned clean. Golden light filled the air, and the golden dragon armor appeared, covering Lu Yuan's important parts. However, his chest and thighs were still bare. After taking a few steps forward, a large mass of golden holy flame came towards him, and immediately wrapped him up. The terrifying temperature burst forth when it came into contact with Lu Yuan's body. An intense pain instantly filled Lu Yuan's mind. Bean-sized beads of sweat appeared on Lu Yuan's forehead, and they instantly evaporated. Without the golden dragon armor, directly touching the holy flame with his skin was a huge challenge even for Lu Yuan. If he wasn't careful, he could seriously injure himself. Sitting cross-legged, Lu Yuan's expression was ferocious, and he clenched his teeth. He had already reached the profound realm of a jade-like physical body. He was invulnerable to swords and spears, water and fire. In the past, even Evil Moon's top-grade weapon Martial Soul, the Moonblade, couldn't break his defense. However, under the holy flame, even his physical body couldn't completely withstand the terrifying temperature. As the golden flame roasted, his skin slowly dried up. A burning sensation rushed from his body to his mind. He really felt that he was about to combust. With a thought, the secret character of He started to circulate. Under the secret character of He, Lu Yuan's skin instantly recovered to its original state. The secret character of He was one of the 9 esoteric words, and its power was limitless. Lu Yuan had already mastered it to a higher level. Even if his heart was ruptured, he could still instantly recover. Therefore, even though Lu Yuan's fighting strength was only comparable to a rank 95 transcendent Douluo, he wasn't afraid of fighting the sword Douluo one-on-one. This was because even if the sword Douluo struck him a few times, he could instantly recover. However, the sword Douluo only needed to take 2 hits from him, and he would be severely injured. This was the strength of the secret character of He. Lu Yuan's idea was very simple. He wanted to use the secret character of He and the holy flame to temper his body through repeated burns and recovery. It had to be said that Lu Yuan was very harsh on himself. The pain of using the holy flame to temper his body was very unbearable. It wasn't much different from being dismembered. Otherwise, with Lu Yuan's tolerance, he wouldn't have looked so ferocious and gritted his teeth so hard. Don't think that just because Bibidon pulled Lu Yuan's ear and made him grimace, he couldn't take any pain. In fact, Lu Yuan had purposely acted that way to adjust the atmosphere. Lu Yuan didn't care about that bit of pain at all. Lu Yuan had always been ruthless towards himself. From the training he did when he was young, to the cultivation he did in Shrek Academy, to the tempering of his body now, he was willing to do anything as long as it could increase his strength without any side effects, and it wasn't harmful to the heavens and earth. No matter how painful it was, he was willing to do it. This was because he needed to be strong enough to protect the people around him. Pasisi's appearance this time made him realize that even though he was quite strong now, there was still a huge gap between him and those who were at the top. With his current strength, he wouldn't be able to threaten an ultimate Douluo even if he used the god-slaying spear. Furthermore, this was only an ultimate Douluo. There were demigods above ultimate Douluo, true gods above demigods, and even godly kings above demigods. Compared to these existences, he was still far from them. He was going to become enemies with the entire godly realm in the future. If he didn't become stronger, how could he resist the godly realm in the future? How could he trample on Azura and destroy everything with his fists? Therefore, when it was time to be harsh on himself, he had to be. Lu Yuan still had this bit of awareness. Chapter 748. A month passed under the tempering of the holy flame. At the 9th step of the celestial stairway, Lu Yuan, who was sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes and slowly stood up. As he waved his hand, the intense golden flames in Lu Yuan's hand immediately dissipated, revealing his muscular body. The tempering of his body with the holy flame for more than a month was extremely painful, but it also increased Lu Yuan's physique by another level. His body was already like jade, but it looked even more lustrous and transparent now. It was so pure that it didn't seem to have any impurities. Lu Yuan was already very handsome, and after using the holy flame to temper his body, it was as if the impurities in his body had been purified, causing Lu Yuan's appearance to increase by another 3 points. He clenched his fist slightly, and an explosive strength surged. Lu Yuan's physique increased once again, and his strength increased by a lot. If he only had 160,000 kilograms of strength before, his strength had reached 200,000 kilograms now. He had been struggling in pain for the past month, and it was considered a good return. The tempering of the holy flame was terrifying, but its effects were also extraordinarily strong. With Lu Yuan's current physique, it wouldn't be a problem for him to reach a 300,000-year savage beast soul ring if he absorbed another soul ring. He could even reach 350,000 years, or even 360,000 years. This was because his physique when he absorbed his 6th soul ring wasn't as strong as it was now, and he could reach 250,000 years then. Now that his 25-year savage beast soul ring had been upgraded and his body had been tempered by the holy flame, a 300,000-year savage beast soul ring was nothing to him. To put it in perspective, his strength was only 150,000 kilograms when he absorbed the god-bestowed soul ring, but his strength had reached 200,000 kilograms now, which was an increase of 80,000 kilograms. It was important to know that it was harder to increase one's strength as one went up. Although it was only an increase of 80,000 kilograms, it was in fact much harder than the previous increase of 150,000 kilograms. This meant that Lu Yuan's physique had at least doubled before he could achieve this. With his current physical strength, it would be very difficult to find a titled Douluo who could match him in terms of physical strength. Taking light steps, Lu Yuan slowly walked on the 9th step of the celestial stairway. If there were any holy flames floating towards him, they would be scattered by him. After going through a month of hellish body refinement, he had almost achieved true fire immunity, and was no longer as weak as before. Could the ice and fire immunity he gained from consuming the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot be considered a true immunity? Not at all. He was only immune to ice and fire below ultimate ice and ultimate fire. Once the ice and fire powers reached the pinnacle, the so-called ice and fire immunity would no longer be of much use. Now that he had been tempered by the holy flames, which exceeded the temperature of ultimate fire, Lu Yuan's body could be said to be truly invulnerable. Even Ma Xiaotao's phoenix flames couldn't hurt him at all. Even with the current sacred flame, he could still casually manipulate it and would not suffer any harm. This was the result of tempering his body with the holy flames over the past month. Walking to the edge of the 9th celestial stairway, Lu Yuan took a light step and directly landed on the 8th celestial stairway. Here, Qian Renxue was cultivating with her eyes closed. Right now, Chihiro Snow was very calm and composed. Evidently, the temperature and pressure of the 8th step of the holy light no longer pressured her. After a month of tough cultivation, Chihiro Snow had completely conquered the 8th step of the celestial stairway. Hearing Lu Yuan's voice, Qian Renxue immediately opened her eyes. Her golden eyes were as clear as water, and they were full of nobility. As she looked at Lu Yuan, the noble look in Qian Renxue's eyes gradually receded and was replaced by a gentle look. Her gaze swept across Lu Yuan's jade-like body, and a bright blush appeared on her delicate face. After tempering his body with the holy flames, Lu Yuan's body could be said to be perfectly proportioned. Chihiro Snow couldn't help but be a little dazzled. Seeing Chihiro Snow's blushing face, Lu Yuan couldn't help but tease her softly. Why? You've seen it so many times, yet you're still shy? After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow immediately glared at Lu Yuan and said, "You're still talking about it. Since you're already down, why can't you find some clothes to put on? Are you an exhibitionist? Why are you in such a hurry to put on clothes? There's no one else here, you're the only one here. What's wrong with letting you see it? You've seen enough, and I think you like it." Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. "Bah, who likes it? Narcissist." Chihiro Snow spat and said. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Immediately, his expression became serious. "Cher, now that you've completely conquered the 8th step of the celestial stairway, you can try to ascend the 9th step." Looking at Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan said softly, "The 9th step." Hearing this, Chihiro Snow nodded vigorously and smiled. "Then I'll have to trouble you." The 9th step was too terrifying. Chihiro Snow might not be able to adapt in a short time. Moreover, the temperature of the holy flame was too high. Even Chihiro Snow's dress, which was woven from the silk of the 1,000-year ice silkworm, would not be able to withstand it and would burn directly. Therefore, she still needed Lu Yuan's help. "Cher, take off your dress. Otherwise, you'll be burned if you go up," Lu Yuan said with a smile as he stared at Chihiro Snow. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan. However, she immediately raised her hand and placed it on the ice blue ribbon at her waist. "Don't be anxious," Lu Yuan said faintly. A blue light flashed in his hand and the Neptune's heart flew out. A blue light shield was released and enveloped him and Chihiro Snow. Without knowing whether the god of angels was a man or a woman, how could he let him see Chihiro Snow take off her clothes? This was absolutely impossible. Seeing this scene, Chihiro Snow could not help but look at Lu Yuan in amusement. This man was really stingy. However, this was also good. She did not want anyone other than Lu Yuan to see her body. The ice blue dress was slowly taken off and Chihiro Snow's beautiful body was completely revealed. Except for the important parts that were covered, Lu Yuan saw everything else. Although he had seen it many times, Lu Yuan was still deeply fascinated by Chihiro Snow's body. Seeing the passion in Lu Yuan's eyes, Chihiro Snow smiled faintly. Her smile was absolutely beautiful. Stunned, Chihiro Snow's pleasant voice sounded. "Ahem, come here, I'll take you to the 9th floor." Hearing Chihiro Snow's voice, Lu Yuan coughed and looked away, pretending to be a gentleman. Seeing Lu Yuan like this, Chihiro Snow could not help but feel a little funny, but she did not expose him. Instead, she stepped lightly and directly went into Lu Yuan's arms. Chapter 749. Lu Yuan couldn't help but have a strange feeling in his heart when he felt the soft and fragrant jade in his arms, and both of them were wearing so little. However, he immediately suppressed this emotion. His body shone with a golden light and the golden dragon armor appeared, wrapping Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow's bodies in it. This time, the two of them were even closer to each other. Chihiro Snow's jade-like flawless face was extremely close to him. Her fragrance penetrated the tip of his nose, causing Lu Yuan's thoughts to fluctuate. If it wasn't for the assessment, he really wanted to find a place to do Chihiro Snow on the spot. This girl's charm was too great, making his heart itch. Circulating the clear chi scripture, Lu Yuan suppressed the thoughts in his heart. Under Chihiro Snow's amused gaze, Lu Yuan took a light step and directly ran towards the 9th step of the celestial stairway. Share, be prepared. The temperature of the 9th step may exceed your imagination. If you can't bear it, just say it and I'll bring you down immediately. Don't try to be brave and hurt yourself, understand? Floating in front of the 9th step of the celestial stairway, Lu Yuan looked into Chihiro Snow's eyes and said with a serious expression. Yes, I know. Chihiro Snow nodded and smiled softly. Then we'll go in. Seeing this, Lu Yuan said softly and then directly stepped onto the 9th step of the celestial stairway. The pressure and temperature of the 9th step of the celestial stairway were much higher than the 8th step. Lu Yuan was naturally used to it. Even if he didn't wear the golden dragon armor, he could still come and go freely. However, it was Chihiro Snow's first time here. In order to take care of her, Lu Yuan moved forward very slowly. As he walked, he paid attention to Chihiro Snow's expression. As soon as she set foot on the 9th floor, Chihiro Snow's relaxed brows slowly furrowed. The sudden increase in pressure and temperature made her feel a little uncomfortable. If she had come up here alone, she would have had a hard time holding on, but with the protection of the golden dragon battle armor, it wasn't a big problem. As Lu Yuan grew stronger, the golden dragon armor continued to evolve. Right now, the quality of the golden dragon armor was definitely not inferior to ordinary 100,000-year soul bones. Even Lu Yuan's Titan giant ape left arm bone might not be able to defeat it, and it might even be slightly inferior. Therefore, the golden dragon battle armor actually helped Chihiro Snow withstand a lot of pressure and heat. Looks like it's just the temperature and pressure. Under the protection of my golden dragon battle armor, it won't be difficult for Cher to endure for 12 hours. The key is the holy flame that can come at any time. This is the biggest test for Cher. Lu Yuan thought to himself as he looked at Chihiro Snow's calm expression. Cher, it's time for the heavyweight test. The temperature of the holy flame is extremely terrifying. Be careful. If you can't take it, make a sound immediately. As he thought about it, Lu Yuan continued to remind her worriedly. Okay. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow nodded vigorously. Swoosh. A huge ball of golden flames came and engulfed the two of them. Suddenly, a terrifying temperature was released. Lu Yuan's golden dragon battle armor shone brightly and blocked the attack of the holy flame. Even so, there was still a terrifying temperature that was transmitted from the golden dragon battle armor. Suddenly, Chihiro Snow's jade-like face turned pale. Beads of sweat appeared on her forehead, but they were evaporated by the extremely high temperature. She bit her red lips with her silver teeth and a look of pain appeared on her face. Bear with it, Cher. This is how painful the holy flame tempering body is. You have to endure for 12 hours. This kind of pain is definitely unavoidable. Don't worry, I will keep an eye on your situation. If there's anything wrong, I will release the divine power of clear chi to heal your injuries. Seeing the pain on Chihiro Snow's face, Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel his heart ache. However, Chihiro Snow had to endure this kind of pain. She could only retreat when she really couldn't take it anymore. Otherwise, if she gave up at the slightest bit of pain, she would never be able to complete this test. Therefore, even though his heart ached, he still advised Chihiro Snow to endure for a while longer. This was because he could clearly see that Chihiro Snow had not reached her limit. He told Chihiro Snow to only make a sound when she really couldn't take it anymore. He didn't want her to retreat right from the start. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow nodded with difficulty. It was obvious that under the high temperature of the holy flame, the pain she was enduring was really intense. 1 minute. 3 minutes. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes had passed. Chihiro Snow's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. She clenched her silver teeth and her entire body was trembling in pain. It was obvious that she was really reaching her limit. However, this girl obviously didn't listen to Lu Yuan's words. With her stubborn personality, she was still holding on. Cher can't take it anymore. Let's stop here for the first attempt. Seeing Chihiro Snow in such a state, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a tinge of pity. He circulated the divine power of clear qi and was about to inject it into Chihiro Snow's body. However, at this moment, something strange happened. Lu Yuan couldn't help but stop what he was doing. A brilliant icy blue radiance exploded from Chihiro Snow's body. At the same time, an extremely intense chill was emitted from Chihiro Snow's body, extinguishing the surrounding golden flames. The chill permeated the air and actually formed an icy blue domain with a radius of 3 meters on the 9th step. It completely enveloped Lu Yuan and her body. What a dense and pure chill. Where did Cher's body get such pure chill? Feeling the chill from Chihiro Snow's body, Lu Yuan's heart couldn't help but tremble violently. This chill was too pure, and its temperature was extremely low. Even Lu Yuan's body, which was impervious to fire and water, felt a little cold. In terms of quality, the purity of this chill wasn't inferior to the holy flame on the 9th step. The temperature was so low that it was probably slightly better than ordinary ultimate ice. Furthermore, the cold yin qi seemed to be endless as it continued to surge out, maintaining the 3-meter radius of the domain and firmly blocking the holy flames of the 9th step of the celestial stairway outside the domain. Without the burning of the holy flame, Chihiro Snow quickly recovered. After all, she had learned the esoteric word, and her recovery was much stronger than ordinary people. When she recovered and looked at the icy blue domain around her, she couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise on her face. Cher, where did you get such pure chill from? Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask as he looked at Chihiro Snow. I don't know either. Faced with Lu Yuan's question, Chihiro Snow's face was a little lost. She still didn't know the source of this chill. Chapter 750. You don't know either? Upon hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but frown. Chihiro Snow wasn't lying. He could see this clearly. He had known, and fallen in love with Chihiro Snow since he was young. He could tell at a glance whether Chihiro Snow was lying to him or not. Chihiro Snow really didn't know the source of the cold yin qi in her body. However, this was the strange thing. If Chihiro Snow didn't know, then where did this cold yin qi come from? Chihiro Snow's martial soul was an 8-winged angel. If she had a strong light and extreme flame power, then Lu Yuan could understand. However, it was too strange for this cold yin qi to appear in the body of an angel martial soul. Abuchi, do you think this cold yin qi was passed to me by Bibidon? After all, both of her martial souls are of the dark attribute. Seeing Lu Yuan frown, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask softly. Impossible. Teacher's 2 martial souls are the Death Spider Emperor and the Soul-Devouring Pearl Emperor. You can say that they are of the dark attribute, but neither of them has this biting cold yin qi. Furthermore, these 2 martial souls are of the evil attribute. One can devour flesh and blood vitality, while the other can devour souls. It's very terrifying. However, the cold yin qi in your body is extremely pure and full of grandeur. It doesn't match with teacher's 2 martial souls at all. It can't be passed to you by teacher. It's impossible. Upon hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan immediately shook his head. His tone was very firm. Then where did the cold yin qi in my body come from? Chihiro Snow asked. This is also what I'm puzzled about. Logically speaking, it's impossible for your body to have this kind of cold yin qi. Lu Yuan said softly. Scratching his head, Lu Yuan still couldn't figure out anything. The cold yin qi in Chihiro Snow's body seemed to have fallen from the sky. It was completely confusing. System, Do you know the source of the cold yin qi in Cher's body? In a situation where he really couldn't figure it out, Lu Yuan could only ask the system for help. Chihiro Snow was born with this. Originally, he was just trying his best and didn't hope that the system would pay attention to him. However, to Lu Yuan's surprise, the system's cold voice actually sounded. Was born with it. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's eyes shone brightly, as if he had heard something unbelievable. A somewhat absurd thought flashed through his mind. Like the angel martial soul, you were born with it. Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask. Yes. The system's voice sounded again. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but look at Chihiro Snow again. There was a strange look in his eyes, causing Chihiro Snow to frown. Then why did it only appear now? Lu Yuan continued to ask. Awakening requires an opportunity. Just like the host's bloodline was forced to awaken under great pressure, Chihiro Snow's cold yin qi also requires the stimulation of an opposite energy in order to awaken. After awakening, Chihiro Snow will have the opportunity to obtain a second martial soul. Second martial soul? Hearing this, Lu Yuan's face suddenly changed. He asked, System, what does this mean? Chihiro Snow's cold yin qi is equivalent to a martial soul void. It has the attribute of a martial soul, but it doesn't have a physical body. As long as a yin-type soul beast is willing to become her martial soul and sacrifice itself to her, she will be able to obtain a second martial soul. Furthermore, due to the purity of the cold yin qi, the strength of her second martial soul won't be inferior to her first martial soul. Furthermore, once Chihiro Snow obtains a second martial soul, her two martial souls will form a yin-yang complementary relationship. Her strength will increase rapidly, and the yin-yang immortal grass that the host once gave her will be completely absorbed. Her future will become limitless. The martial soul void has a yin-type attribute. Isn't this similar to the situation where the million-year Skydream Iceworm provided a martial soul void for Huo Yu Hao? After hearing the system's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask. Pretty much. However, Chihiro Snow's situation is much better than Huo Yu Hao's. The Skydream Iceworm only provided an ice-type soul void. Huo Yu Hao was able to obtain ultimate ice because his martial soul was the Ice Empress. If it were an ordinary soul beast, he wouldn't be able to obtain ultimate ice. However, Chihiro Snow is different. The quality of her cold yin qi is extremely high, and all she needs is a physical body. No matter what yin-type soul beast it is, as Chihiro Snow's second martial soul, Chihiro Snow will definitely have pure yin, ultimate ice, and ultimate cold. Of course, if the soul beast's quality is also very high, then it will naturally be better. After all, if the soul beast is stronger, then it will naturally be stronger. Hiss. After hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Chihiro Snow's second martial soul was a little powerful. It wasn't inferior to her first martial soul at all. The eight-winged angel possessed the three elements of holy, ultimate light, and ultimate fire. Her second martial soul also possessed the three elements of pure yin, ultimate ice, and ultimate cold. No wonder the system said that once Chihiro Snow obtained her second martial soul, she would be able to quickly complete the yin-yang complement technique, and her strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Looks like I'll have to bring Shui to the extreme north when I have the chance. The soul beasts that are most suited for cold yin energy are undoubtedly in the extreme north, Lu Yuan muttered to himself. Oh right, system. Suddenly, Lu Yuan seemed to have thought of something. He asked, after talking so much, you still haven't told me where Cher's cold yin qi came from. Who passed it to her? Also, you haven't told me whether my theory is correct or not. The host will have to discover these for himself. I can't tell you for now. The system's cold voice sounded. Fuck, you really keep me in suspense when it comes to important matters. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but curse in his heart. The system is still a scammer. It never tells me the important things. However, since the system didn't say anything, Lu Yuan couldn't do anything about it. Furthermore, he already had some faint suspicions about some things in his heart. Furthermore, the system's words had already revealed some information. Seeing that Lu Yuan was standing there in a daze, Chihiro Snow frowned and couldn't help but ask, "Abuchi, why are you in a daze? Also, why are you looking at me with such a weird gaze?" "Share, I have good news for you. You'll be very happy when you hear it." After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan immediately came back to his senses. There was a slight smile at the corner of his mouth as he spoke softly. "What good news?" Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask curiously. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and repeated the system's words to Chihiro Snow. "What? Abuchi, you're saying that I have a chance to obtain a second martial soul?" After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow's face was immediately filled with joy. Chapter 751. This was a second martial soul. Once she possessed a second martial soul, she would have twin martial souls. Twin martial souls were extremely rare. Currently, there were only 2 people on the continent who possessed twin martial souls. To be more precise, there were only 3 people. Although Lu Yuan's Polychoria was a martial soul, he couldn't add a soul ring to it. Thus, he could be considered a twin martial soul. Once she possessed twin martial souls, she would be the 4th person on the continent to possess twin martial souls. Furthermore, according to Lu Yuan, her second martial soul was extremely powerful. It wouldn't be inferior to her 8-winged angel. Furthermore, her 8-winged angel was second only to Lu Yuan's god-slaying spear in the continent. It was similar to the golden dragon. It could be said that once she possessed 2 martial souls of this level, she would be the most talented person on the continent aside from Lu Yuan. Even Bibidon couldn't compare to her. This was because Bibidon's 2 martial souls were only top-notch martial souls. However, she possessed 2 powerful martial souls that surpassed ordinary god-ranked martial souls. When she thought of this, Chihiro Snow's heart began to burn. "Abuchi, is what you said true?" Chihiro Snow's words carried a trace of urgency. She was suddenly told that she might possess 2 god-ranked martial souls that surpassed ordinary god-ranked martial souls. Even she couldn't suppress the joy in her heart. "Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you about something like this? However, it's not that simple to obtain a second martial soul. First, you have to find a yin-type soul beast. Second, this soul beast must have a cultivation of 100,000 years. Lastly, this soul beast must be willing to become your martial soul and sacrifice itself for you. Only then can you truly possess a second martial soul." Lu Yuan spoke softly as he looked at Chihiro Snow. "Ah!" After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but feel a little disheartened. It wasn't easy to find a 100,000-year yin-type soul beast. Even if she did find one, it would be extremely difficult to get it to willingly become her martial soul and soul ring. In any case, she felt that there was very little hope for this matter to work. After all, she knew a little about the attitude of 100,000-year soul beasts towards humans. To this day, she only knew of 2 soul beast sacrifices. The first was when a 100,000-year blue-silver emperor had sacrificed itself to Tang Hao while being pursued by Chihiro disease. As a result, Tang Hao had become a titled Douluo, and he had crushed Chihiro disease, the chrysanthemum Douluo, and the ghost Douluo. The second was the man in front of her. He had also been sacrificed by a 100,000-year soul beast and obtained a 100,000-year soul ring, becoming the first soul king on the continent to possess a 100,000-year soul ring. Other than the 2 of them, she hadn't heard of any other soul beast sacrifices. When she thought about how she had to rely on a 100,000-year soul beast as a sacrifice to obtain her second soul ring, Chihiro Snow felt a little disappointed. This was really a little too difficult. "Why? Have you lost confidence? Do you feel that there's little hope?" After seeing Chihiro Snow's expression, how could Lu Yuan not know what she was thinking? He smiled and gently touched her nose. "Yes, a 100,000-year yin-type soul beast willingly sacrificing itself. No matter how I think about it, it's a little too far-fetched." Chihiro Snow grabbed Lu Yuan's hand and said softly, "It's not to the extent of far-fetched, but it is indeed a little difficult to accomplish. Leave it to me, I'll give you a satisfactory answer. If you rely on yourself, there's basically no hope. If you leave it to me, there's still some possibility. Lu Yuan said warmly. Yes, your fifth soul ring was sacrificed by a soul beast. Abuchi, do you have some special channels, huh? Chihiro Snow's golden eyes blinked, her expression carrying a trace of inquiry. When it's time to tell you, I'll naturally tell you. Now isn't the time yet. Lu Yuan shook his head and said softly. All right. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow could only obediently nod her head. Since Lu Yuan wasn't willing to say it now, there was no use in forcing him. If she forced him too much, he would be annoyed. With Chihiro Snow's intelligence, she naturally wouldn't do such a thing, although she was extremely curious about Lu Yuan's special channels. Alright, share, since your yin-type chi has erupted and formed a domain, then take advantage of this opportunity to pass the 9th step of the celestial stairway in one fell swoop and end the second test. Lu Yuan said in a serious tone. Yes. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow nodded vigorously. With the endless yin-type chi in Chihiro Snow's body continuously erupting, staying on the 9th step of the celestial stairway for 12 hours seemed very simple. By midnight, Chihiro Snow had already completed the second test. However, she didn't get up. Instead, she looked at Lu Yuan with a gentle expression. Lu Yuan had to persist for 12 hours. It wasn't until the afternoon of the second day that Lu Yuan finally completed his second test. At the same time that he completed the second test, a voice sounded in Lu Yuan's mind. You have completed the second test of the Holy Sword test. You have completed the test less than half a year in advance. Your rewards have been doubled. The age of all your soul rings has increased by 2,000 years, and your compatibility with the 8-winged angel has increased by 20%. Your current compatibility with your martial soul has reached 70%. The age of all my soul rings has increased by 2,000 years. Lu Yuan muttered to himself. His first soul ring was originally a 6,300-year soul ring, and his second soul ring was a 9,000-year soul ring. Now that they had been upgraded by 2,000 years, his first soul ring was 8,300-year soul ring, and his second soul ring was 11,000-year soul ring. In other words, his current soul ring combination was purple, black, red, and red. Furthermore, the compatibility with my martial soul has increased to 70%. This means that Cher and I already have a chance to use a martial soul fusion skill. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel happy. He was really curious about the power of his and Chihiro Snow's martial soul fusion skill. Opening his eyes slightly, he saw Chihiro Snow's beautiful face. At this moment, she was tilting her head and looking at him without blinking. Have you passed the test? Chihiro Snow asked gently. Ien, I have passed the test. The rewards have increased the age of all my soul rings by 2,000 years. At the same time, my compatibility with the 8-winged angel has increased by 20%. My current compatibility is 70%. Lu Yuan said softly. I'm about the same. My angel affinity has increased by 10%, and my compatibility with the golden dragon has increased by 20%. My current compatibility is 70%. 70%. You can already use a martial soul fusion skill. Cher, are you interested in giving it a try? Furthermore, this is also the content of our third test. Lu Yuan said with a smile. After the rewards of the second test were given out, the content of the third test was given out. The content of the test was very simple. They had to cooperate with Chihiro Snow to use a martial soul fusion skill. The duration of the test was 7 days. Generally speaking, one would be able to use a martial soul fusion skill as long as one's spiritual compatibility exceeded 50%. Currently, Lu Yuan and Qian Renshue's spiritual compatibility had reached 70%, which was considered relatively high. It was enough for them to use a martial soul fusion skill. Therefore, the difficulty of the third test was really not that high. Chapter 752. Using a martial soul fusion skill? Sure. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow's eyes lit up. She was also very curious about what kind of martial soul fusion skill would be like when the six-winged angel and golden dragon fused. Then let's go down and give it a try, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Chihiro Snow nodded, then moved her body at the same time as Lu Yuan. Suddenly, the two of them stopped at the same time. Their bodies were originally wrapped in the golden dragon armor, so it was fine if one of them moved, but when the two of them moved together, they immediately felt that something was wrong. Looking at Chihiro Snow in front of him, Lu Yuan's eyes were burning. "Cher, our test is over, right?" Lu Yuan asked softly. It's over." Hearing this, Chihiro Snow nodded blankly. "Since it's over, I think there's something we need to do before we try to use the martial soul fusion skill." Staring at Chihiro Snow's golden eyes, Lu Yuan said word by word. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's face couldn't help but blush. After being with Lu Yuan for so long, how could she not understand the meaning behind Lu Yuan's words? Although she was a little shy in her heart, she still nodded softly. To be honest, she also wanted to do it. Hearing Chihiro Snow's answer, Lu Yuan laughed out loud. With a light wave of his right hand and a slight movement of his feet, the two of them turned into a golden light at the same time and disappeared from the 9th step of the celestial stairway. A good show was about to unfold. In the blink of an eye, it was already the next morning. Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow appeared in the Angel Secret Realm. The Angel Secret Realm was very big, and it was rich in flora and fauna. The scenery was pleasant. After breakfast, Lu Yuan held Chen Ranshue's hand and took a stroll in the Angel Realm since they had nothing to do. Lu Yuan was naturally dressed in white, with his long hair casually draped over his shoulders. A white dragon belt was wrapped around his waist, and a purple jade chenille pendant hung from his body. Coupled with his extraordinary temperament, he was truly handsome. As for Chihiro Snow, even though she didn't enter the 9 heavenly steps today, she still wore an ice blue dress. A cold and pure aura emanated from Chihiro Snow's body. Ever since the cold yin energy in her body had awakened, Chihiro Snow's temperament had changed quite a bit. Originally, Chihiro Snow's most conspicuous temperament was holy and noble. Now, in addition to the holy and noble temperament, Chihiro Snow now had a faint trace of coldness. And it was this faint cold temperament that made Chihiro Snow's charm increase by a few points. The current Chihiro Snow could be holy and noble, but she could also be cold and pure. Her temperament could be changed according to her heart, which made Lu Yuan, who was beside her, even more infatuated with her. "Cher, you look especially different today." As they walked, Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow and couldn't help but say, "Then do you like it?" Chihiro Snow asked. "Is there a need to ask? Look at my burning eyes, you'll understand everything." Lu Yuan blinked and said with a chuckle. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but smile faintly. Seeing Lu Yuan's burning eyes, she was really satisfied. This showed that her charm was still very strong, and she was still attractive enough to Lu Yuan. Blinking her eyes, Chihiro Snow seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Abuchi, do you think I'm better looking, or Bibidon is better looking?" Regarding Lu Yuan falling in love with Bibidon, she always had a grudge in her heart. She wanted to compare herself with Jiu Yuana. She can admit that her appearance is not as good as Jiu Yuana, but she will never allow herself to be worse than Bibidon. It's okay to be worse than anyone, but it can't be worse than her. This is the thought in Chihiro Snow's heart. Listening to Chihiro Snow's question, Lu Yuan suddenly had a headache. Why does Cher like to ask these difficult questions? "Hey, Abuchi, I asked you a question." Seeing Lu Yuan in a daze and not speaking, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but shake Lu Yuan's arm and urged. "It's hard to say. If it's just appearance, Cher is definitely a little better, but if you combine temperament and other things, the two of you are actually about the same." Lu Yuan told the truth. "So I'm better looking." Chihiro Snow smiled happily, decisively ignoring the second half of Lu Yuan's sentence. "What did Abuchi just say?" "He said my appearance is a little better than Bibidon, right?" "Well, that's it. Is there anything else?" "No, Abuchi didn't say anything else. Anyway, I didn't hear it." This is Chihiro Snow's inner monologue. Looking at the smile on Chihiro Snow's face, Lu Yuan shook his head helplessly. Chihiro Snow's competitive temperament has not changed, it's just restrained. Just like now, isn't this temperament causing trouble? Yesterday, Chihiro Snow's body suddenly erupted with cold yin energy. In addition to what Lu Yuan said to Chihiro Snow, there was actually an important guess that Lu Yuan didn't say. First, because there was insufficient evidence. Second, he was afraid that Chihiro Snow wouldn't be able to accept it and would fight with him instead. In that case, the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Chihiro Snow's cold yin energy was innate, which meant that it was brought out from her mother's womb like her angel martial spirit. Obviously, this cold yin energy was definitely not brought to her by Bibidon, because Bibidon himself didn't have this thing. Therefore, a lot of things could be inferred from this. It's just that Lu Yuan still lacked substantial evidence and there were still many things that he didn't understand. It was just an inference and guess. No matter how reasonable it wasn't very convincing. But there was one thing that Lu Yuan was very clear in his heart. Perhaps, he didn't need to keep a certain distance from Bibidon, but could be a little more intimate. After walking slowly for a while, Chihiro Snow's footsteps suddenly stopped. In front of them was a large open space. "Abuchi, we can try martial soul fusion here," Chihiro Snow said softly as she held Lu Yuan's hand. "Well, let's do it here then." Hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded lightly. "Abuchi, how should we try this martial soul fusion skill?" Having never come into contact with these things, Chihiro Snow didn't know how to operate these things at all. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan tapped his chin with his right hand and said, "Generally speaking, there are two requirements to use a martial soul fusion skill. One is the tacit understanding between the martial souls. Only with enough tacit understanding between the martial souls can it be possible to use a martial soul fusion skill. The other is to display the tacit understanding between the two parties. To use a martial soul fusion skill, the two parties don't have to be telepathic, but at the very least, their thoughts must be basically the same. There can't be any conflicting thoughts." Chapter 753. Our martial soul's compatibility has already reached 70%. This compatibility is actually very high, so the first point is not a problem. As for the tacit understanding between us, there should be no need to talk about it. Cher, is there anyone who has a better tacit understanding than the two of us? Looking at Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan asked with a chuckle. Hearing this, Chen Renshue couldn't help but smile. Indeed, the two of them had already reached the point where they only needed a single glance to know what the other wanted to express. In terms of tacit understanding, there was naturally no need to say anything. Although it wasn't a tacit understanding, it wasn't too far off. "So, how should we do it?" Chihiro Snow asked. Martial soul fusion skills are ultimately a kind of strange soul skill produced by the mutual generation or complementation between martial souls. Therefore, if we want to carry out a martial soul fusion, we naturally have to first resonate with our martial souls. "Cher, let's release our martial souls first," Lu Yuan said softly. "All right." Chihiro Snow nodded, and a bright golden light burst forth from his body. A mysterious and ancient chant sounded, and a woman with 8 pairs of pure white wings opened her arms behind Chihiro Snow. Suddenly, a holy and majestic aura was released from Chihiro Snow's body. At the same time, a bright golden light began to circulate rapidly on Lu Yuan's body. A dragon's roar resounded, and a huge golden dragon shadow appeared behind Lu Yuan, releasing a strong dragon's aura. At the same time, 6 purple, black, and red soul rings appeared under Lu Yuan's feet. On Lu Yuan's body, a strong aura began to rise. "Abuchi, your aura is so oppressive." Feeling the pressure from Lu Yuan's aura, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but frown and say softly. Her soul power was already at rank 69, which was 4 ranks higher than Lu Yuan's. However, Lu Yuan's aura was much stronger than hers. Under Lu Yuan's aura, she actually found it difficult to breathe. "I'll withdraw it right away." Seeing that Chihiro Snow was a little uncomfortable, Lu Yuan instantly withdrew his aura. After Lu Yuan withdrew his aura, Chihiro Snow's expression immediately became much better. "Abuchi, what do we do next?" Chihiro Snow asked. "Let's fuse our auras together. Share, come, let's hug." Lu Yuan said as he pulled Chihiro Snow into his arms. "Share, hold me tight, don't think about that nonsense," Lu Yuan said when he noticed that something was wrong with Chihiro Snow in his arms. "Oh." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but blush slightly. When she was hugged by Lu Yuan and felt the aura that belonged to the golden dragon, her thoughts couldn't help but go astray for a moment. Now that Lu Yuan had pointed it out, she really felt a little embarrassed. "And then?" Chihiro Snow asked. "Then slowly circulate your soul force." With the infusion of soul force, the aura of your martial soul can be completely released. Lu Yuan said. "Okay." Chihiro Snow nodded, and the soul force in her body began to circulate rapidly. In an instant, the holy aura of the angel martial soul was released, and the resplendent golden light illuminated the surrounding space. Lu Yuan also began to circulate his soul force from the Clear Breath Sutra. The golden dragon roared towards the sky, and the aura that belonged to the golden dragon was immediately released. The 70% tacit understanding between their martial souls was naturally not just for show. When the aura of both martial souls was completely released, a faint traction force was produced between the two martial souls. This change caused Lu Yuan and Qian Renxue to involuntarily reveal a hint of joy on their faces. The two of them hugged tightly, and the soul force in their bodies also circulated separately. As time passed, the traction force between the eight-winged angel and the golden dragon became stronger and stronger, but for some reason, it seemed that the final step was still missing, and they were unable to fuse intimately together. "Abuchi, I can feel that the traction between our martial souls is already very strong, but for some reason, it still can't fuse, as if something is missing." Sensing this situation, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but say aloud, "I feel it too." Hearing this, Lu Yuan replied, "Could it be that our posture isn't intimate enough? Abuchi, why don't we try kissing?" Chihiro Snow was silent for a while, and said softly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. He carefully stared at Chihiro Snow's eyes, and her eyes were shining brightly. It was obvious that this girl was serious, and wasn't deliberately teasing him. "You think kissing will work?" Lu Yuan asked. "How do you know if you don't try?" Chihiro Snow said. "Okay then." Lu Yuan nodded. It was just a kiss, and he didn't care. In fact, he was even enjoying it. Two lips intersected, and Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow kissed to their heart's content. Strangely enough, with this kiss, there were some changes between the martial souls of the two. The two martial souls were attracted to each other, and there was a tendency for them to fuse into one. Seeing this scene, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but feel happy. However, before she could finish being happy, the trend suddenly stopped, and Chihiro Snow's expression couldn't help but be stunned. Then, there was a strong sense of doubt in her eyes. On the other hand, Lu Yuan's expression shook, and a trace of understanding flashed across his eyes. "Share, use all your strength to activate the clear divine power in your body." Letting go of Chihiro Snow's lips, Lu Yuan said loudly, and then began to activate the divine power hidden in his body. Hearing Lu Yuan's voice, Chihiro Snow hurriedly did as she was told, and activated the clear divine power in her body. Chihiro Snow's body emitted a faint white light, and Lu Yuan's body flickered with a faint golden light. When these two lights lit up, the attraction between the eight-winged angel and the golden dragon instantly increased, and then quickly began to fuse, and a golden light began to bloom. The dense golden light almost became solid, and completely enveloped Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow's bodies. The golden light flickered violently, as if something was being nurtured in it. After a while, the golden light slowly dissipated, and an aura as if a god had come back to life suddenly filled the air. In mid-air, where the golden light dissipated, a figure slowly appeared. His body exuded a supreme and noble aura, as if he was above the heavens and the earth. He wore a dazzling golden crown on his head, and in the middle of the crown was a dazzling golden gem. His body was densely covered with a layer of gorgeous golden armor, and the armor was made up of golden scales. The scales were diamond-shaped, and looked very much like the dragon scales of a golden dragon. Behind him were 4 pairs of pure white wings, and the wings gently fluttered, exuding a holy aura. The figure waved his hand slightly, and a golden spear about 3 meters long appeared in his hand. The spear was densely covered with ancient and mysterious magic patterns, and at the tip of the spear, the golden dragon head opened slightly, spitting out a sharp spear tip. And looking at the figure's face, it was exactly the same as Lu Yuan's. Chapter 754. After martial soul fusion, such an illusory figure appeared. The combination of the 8-winged angel and the golden dragon actually produced such a transformation. It didn't have the strange appearance of the golden dragon with 4 pairs of snow-white wings like Lu Yuan had imagined. Instead, the figure after the martial soul fusion took on a human form. This should be due to the 8-winged angel martial soul. In this fusion skill, the human form and the 4 pairs of snow-white wings on its back were undoubtedly the characteristics of the 8-winged angel. The dragon scale armor on its body and the golden dragon spear in its hand were undoubtedly the representatives of the golden dragon. As for the scarlet gold armor, the dragon spear that was densely covered with mysterious demonic patterns, and the golden crown on its head that was densely covered with golden gems, these were some of the new things that were produced by the fusion of the 2 martial souls. Finally, from the face of the human figure, it could be seen that the main person in charge of this martial soul fusion skill was Lu Yuan. After the 8-winged angel and golden dragon fused, the martial soul fusion skill produced perfectly fused the characteristics of both martial souls. The entire figure was filled with a holy, noble, and supreme aura. Lu Yuan gently raised his hand, and the golden dragon spear pierced through the air. A golden spear light shot out, and was magnified more than 10 times in the air. Instead of a spear light, it was more like a golden spear aura. The aura that was more than 30 meters long directly struck the empty space in front of it, and immediately let out a loud sound. The surrounding ground couldn't help but tremble. The empty space that was more than 100 meters in diameter was directly smashed into the ground. The layer of soil was broken, and it was a mess. A bottomless hole appeared at the place where the astral spear collided, and a clear stream of water directly shot out from the hole. It had actually gone deep into the water reservoir. It was just a light attack in the air, but it caused such a terrifying destructive force. What a great martial soul fusion skill. Come, little Yuan, let's try it. As the exceptional Douluo, Sendryu naturally couldn't be unaware of such a loud noise in the angel secret realm. After sensing the commotion, his figure suddenly flashed out. Looking at Lu Yuan, who was wearing a crown on his head, wearing a gorgeous reddish-gold battle armor, holding a golden dragon spear, and flapping the wings on his back, a hint of interest flashed across his eyes. He was exuding a supreme and noble aura. After cultivating for so many years, he had never seen such a strange fusion skill between Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow. This aura made his heart tremble. If it weren't for the fact that his cultivation was much higher than Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow, facing this aura, he would probably have the urge to prostrate himself in worship. Therefore, he really wanted to try out the power of this martial soul fusion skill. Okay, old man, take my shot. Looking at Sendryu opposite him, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a hint of fighting spirit. He wanted to see how strong and ultimate Douluo was. He raised his golden dragon spear, and rays of golden light burst forth. The demonic patterns on the spear seemed to have awakened, emitting a mysterious fiery red light. Under the illumination of the fiery red light, the golden dragon spear had the same golden color as the battle armor on his body. Profundity, Heavenly Emperor Demon Slayer. Lu Yuan let out a low chant, and the golden dragon spear stabbed directly at Sendryu. The golden spear light flashed, and a dragon's roar was heard. The golden spear light turned into a huge golden dragon roaring in the air, and wanted to pounce on Sendryu. The golden dragon was 100 meters long, and it roared in the air with a powerful aura. Looking at the huge golden dragon, Sendryu's body circulated with golden light. The six-winged angel behind his back slowly unfolded, and 9 black, and red soul rings rippled under Sendriu's body. His 5th soul ring lit up, and a huge golden sword appeared in his hand. 5th soul skill, Holy Sword. The huge golden sword was more than 30 meters long, and it was surrounded by golden flames. Sendriu waved his arm gently, and the huge golden sword slashed down in the air, and collided with the golden spear light. Boom! 2 huge bursts of energy burst forth, and intense energy fluctuations suddenly erupted in mid-air. The golden light shone, and the light was so intense that it was comparable to the light of the sun. Lu Yuan was forced back more than 100 meters by the huge recoil from the collision of the 2 bursts of energy. He flapped his wings slightly, and stabilized himself. However, Sendriu was still in the same place, and he didn't move at all. It was obvious that even though Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow had used their martial soul fusion skill, they were still at a disadvantage against Sendriu. However, Sendriu wasn't disappointed at all. On the contrary, his eyes were shining. The energy fluctuations in mid-air slowly dissipated, and only Sendriu and Lu Yuan were still in mid-air. Suddenly, Lu Yuan's body trembled, and golden light shone. The Zhizun figure that was originally fused into one disappeared, and Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow's figures were revealed. It was their first time using a martial soul fusion skill, and they weren't very familiar with it, so the fusion time was very short. After fighting with Sendriu, Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow couldn't control it, and they disintegrated. Of course, this wasn't a big problem. As long as they practiced diligently, they would be able to completely control this martial soul fusion skill sooner or later. Abuchi, share, this martial soul fusion skill of yours is very good. It's very powerful. The power of that spear just now has already touched the threshold of a rank 98 peak Douluo. It seems like I won't have to worry about your safety as long as the 2 of you stay together in the future. Sendriu stroked his beard and laughed softly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow looked at each other, and a smile flashed across their eyes at the same time. Oh yes, what's the name of your martial soul fusion skill just now? Sendriu asked curiously. Our martial soul fusion skill is called the Heavenly Emperor, or the Heavenly Emperor Transformation, Lu Yuan said. Heavenly Emperor Transformation? Sendriu muttered softly. Then, he turned to the 2 of them and said, this is a very good martial soul fusion skill. The 2 of you have to practice more. Once you're familiar with it, there won't be many people on the continent who can hurt you. This way, your ability to protect yourselves will be greatly improved. Yes, we will. We'll try it out when we're free. Furthermore, it can also improve our tacit understanding. Isn't that right, Cher? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow. His eyes roamed around certain parts of her body, and he seemed to be hinting at something as he said. Seeing Lu Yuan's gaze, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but secretly spit. However, facing Sendriu, she still blushed slightly and nodded, indicating that she would. Yes, that's good. Then the 2 of you can slowly study it. This old man won't disturb the 2 of you here. After testing the martial soul fusion skill, Sendriu immediately left without any hesitation. A golden light flashed, and his figure suddenly disappeared. Chapter 755. The third test of the Holy Sword successfully performed a martial soul fusion skill with the Angel Inheritor. The time limit is 7 days. As of now, the test has been completed. As it only took 1 day to complete the test, the reward has been tripled. The reward is an increase in the age of all your soul rings by 3,000 years and a rank and a half increase in soul power. The moment Sendriu left, the voice of the completion of the third test of the Holy Sword sounded in Lu Yuan's mind. All of his soul rings had increased by another 3,000 years. This time, his first soul ring had finally entered the ranks of 10,000-year soul rings. Although it was only 1,300 years, it was still a genuine 10,000-year soul ring. So my current soul ring combination has become black, 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 red, and red. Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. After so long, He had finally gotten rid of his purple 1,000-year soul rings, and all of his soul rings had advanced to 10,000-year and above. It had to be said that these 4 black and 2 red rings looked more domineering than 2 purple, 2 black, and 2 red rings. After all, there was still a big gap between a 1,000-year soul ring and a 10,000-year soul ring. "Share, what's your reward?" Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask while holding Chihiro Snow's hand. "My reward is a 15% increase in angel affinity and a rank and a half increase in soul power." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow immediately answered. "A rank and a half increase in soul power, doesn't that mean you've reached rank 70? Lu Yuan asked. "Well, I'm already rank 70. You're now rank 66 and a half, right?" Chihiro Snow said. "When you reach rank 70, you should have a God-bestowed soul ring, but I suggest you keep it until your 9th ring. At that time, you can try for a 100,000-year soul ring, or even a fierce beast soul ring. If you use it now, even if you can increase the age of your soul ring to more than 90,000 years, it will still be a 10,000-year soul ring." "That would be a bit of a pity," Lu Yuan said with a serious expression. "Well, you're right. I shouldn't be able to withstand a 100,000-year soul ring. After all, my physique is still a bit weak." Listening to Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow nodded and said, "That's right. If you had twin martial souls now, with the enhancement of your body, it wouldn't be difficult for you to bear a 100,000-year soul ring. But it's a pity that this matter of twin martial souls will drag on for a long time, and you need a soul ring now." Lu Yuan shook his head, and there was a look of pity on his face. If he could, he really wanted to give Chihiro Snow's 7th soul ring a 100,000-year soul ring. That way, Chihiro Snow's martial soul true body would be terrifyingly powerful. Once she became a soul sage, she would be able to fight against average titled battle pet warriors and even defeat them. If she were to become a soul sage with a 10,000-year soul ring, Chen Renshue would still be able to exchange blows with an ordinary titled Douluo with her 8-winged angel true body. However, her chances of defeating an ordinary titled Douluo would be slim. "It's not a pity. Even if my 7th soul ring can't be a 100,000-year soul ring, I'll definitely be able to withstand a 100,000-year soul ring when I become a soul Douluo. There are very few soul Douluo with a 100,000-year soul ring. When that time comes, you have to find me a 100,000-year soul ring. You promised me that." Chihiro Snow smiled. "Of course. Leave it to me." Lu Yuan smiled. "Oh yes, Cher, has your 4th test been released?" Lu Yuan suddenly asked as if he had thought of something. "Yes. The 4th test, Angel's Glory. Unify the Heaven Do Empire within 4 years, and shine the glory of angels on the entire Heaven Do." Chihiro Snow said softly. "That's about the same as me. My 4th test is to help you unify the Heaven Do Empire within 4 years. Now that the Snowy Night Emperor is ill, the governance of the Heaven Do Empire is all on you. With the help of the Dragon King Hall, it won't be too difficult to unify the Heaven Do Empire within 4 years. However, just to be safe, Cher, you have to return immediately after you obtain your 7th soul ring. This is to prevent the person who replaced you from exposing himself. After all, a titled Douluo might be able to see through his disguise. This matter concerns our test. We can't let our guard down." Lu Yuan said sternly. "Yes, I know. Are you going to bring Zhu Qing to the Sionra Empire next?" Chihiro Snow asked. "Yes, I'm going to bring Zhu Qing to the Sionra Empire to cancel the engagement. Although she hasn't said anything, I know that she still has a grudge against this so-called engagement. This has become a thorn in her heart. This time, I'm going to remove this thorn." Lu Yuan's eyes flashed as he spoke in a deep voice. However, the Sionra Empire has always been tough. They aren't as cowardly as the Heaven Do Empire. You crippled Davis, destroyed Dai Mubai, and now you're going to cancel the engagement. I'm afraid the Star Luo royal family won't let this go so easily. They might find trouble with you. Chihiro Snow's voice carried a tinge of worry. "It's all right. I'm waiting for them to find trouble with me. I can take this opportunity to cripple a few of the Star Luo royal family's experts. It'll be more convenient when we attack the Star Luo Empire in the future." As for danger, with Elder Long around, who can stop us if we want to leave? Don't worry. Lu Yuan said softly. However, as soon as Lu Yuan finished speaking, a cold voice rang out in Lu Yuan's mind. Ding. Mission issued. Sign in location, Senyu City, Sionra Empire. Sign in time limit, within 3 months. Sign in reward, 100,000-year radiant unicorn, 2 title Douluo draw cards. System, you're alive again? Hearing the system take the initiative to issue a mission, Lu Yuan actually felt like crying. How long has it been since that time in the dense fog forest? The system hasn't issued a mission since that time. Furthermore, the mission reward this time was quite humane. 100,000-year radiant unicorn. Isn't this the 7th soul ring that I'm obviously giving to share? System, you're really getting more and more considerate. Love you. Lu Yuan said in his mind. System, there are still 2 title Douluo draw cards. I don't know who I'll get this time, but no matter who I get, after this draw, my subordinates will definitely not be inferior to the Pontiff's Palace and the Consecrated Hall, whether in terms of quality or quantity. As he thought of this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile slightly. With 2 more title Douluo, even if the Frenzy Rhino Douluo was eliminated, the Dragon King Hall still had 7 title Douluo, including ZG. 7 title Douluo, this strength was definitely comparable to the Consecrated Hall and the Pontiff's Palace. It could be said that after this draw, Lu Yuan's promise to Chihiro Snow was to establish a faction that wasn't inferior to the Consecrated Hall and the Pontiff's Palace. How could Lu Yuan not be happy? Chapter 756. On the empty official road, a horse carriage was slowly moving. The carriage was heading towards the Sionra Empire. Needless to say, the people in the carriage were Lu Yuan and the rest. After completing the 3rd test, Martial Soul Fusion, Lu Yuan got Chen Renxue to stay in Martial Spirit City and not rush to hunt for soul rings after learning about the sign-in mission this time. After all, no soul beast was more suitable for her than a 100,000-year radiant unicorn. The 8-winged angel possessed the 3 elements of holy, ultimate light, and ultimate fire. On the other hand, the 100,000-year radiant unicorn was a soul beast that possessed the pure element of light. It was incomparably holy, and was most suitable for Chen Renxue. With this radiant unicorn as a sacrifice, Chihiro Snow's abilities would increase significantly. When she returned to Heaven-Do City, Lu Yuan would be more at ease. Naturally, he brought Zhu Zhuqing, Ma Xiaodao, and Long Xiaoyaro directly to the Sionra Empire. More accurately speaking, they were going to Senyu City in the Sionra Empire. Zhu Zhuqing's family lived here, and they were the actual rulers of Senyu City. Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing, and Ma Xiaodao were sitting in the carriage, while Long Xiaoyaro was driving the carriage outside. Lu Yuan was probably the first person in history who dared to let an ultimate Douluo drive a carriage. Ma Xiaodao and Zhu Zhuqing were only able to enjoy such treatment because of Lu Yuan. Brother, can you take me into consideration? If you want to be close to Zhuqing's mother, you have to pay attention to the occasion. Ma Xiaodao couldn't help but complain when she saw Lu Yuan pull Zhu Zhuqing into his embrace and let her sit on his lap. He even caressed her hair gently, as if he was very close to her. Why, do you have a problem with that? If you don't want to watch, you can go out and enjoy the breeze with Elder Long. You're already in the carriage, and you're still talking so much nonsense. Do you see other families where subordinates and masters sit together? Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but glare at Ma Xiaodao. Master, please don't. This girl is too noisy. Let me be alone for a while. Long Xiaoyaro, who was driving the carriage outside, couldn't help but interrupt when he heard Lu Yuan's words. Looking at Ma Xiaodao, Lu Yuan said with a chuckle, "Look, even Elder Long dislikes you for being noisy. TSK, Elder Long is just too old. He doesn't have the energy of us youngsters. How am I messing around? I'm just a little more active and lively." Ma Xiaodao retorted. "Yes, it's very active and lively. That day in the Great Stardo Forest, I don't know who was the one who messed around with that 100,000-year gangster rabbit, but they turned the entire forest into a mess. Lu Yuan curled his lips and said. Ma Xiaodao couldn't help but be stunned when she heard this. Back then, she and Xiao Wu had caused chaos in the entire Great Stardew Forest. This was a fact, and she couldn't refute it at all. Great Stardew Forest, 100,000-year gangster rabbit. Abuchi, what are you talking about? Zhu Zhuqing was a little confused when she heard Lu Yuan's words. Well, Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing. He wanted to say something, but he didn't. Why, you can't tell me? Abuchi? Zhu Zhuqing stared at Lu Yuan with her big eyes and asked softly. It's not that I can't tell you. Forget it, I'll tell you some things. Actually, I have some connections with some soul beasts in the Great Stardew Forest. You know the beast god, Di Tian, right? Perhaps it's because I have the golden dragon's bloodline. Although I'm human, I have a good relationship with him. He was the one who arranged the soul beast sacrifice for me, Lu Yuan said as he rolled his eyes and looked at Zhu Zhuqing. Hearing this, Ma Xiaodao curled her lips. Di Tian caught you twice like you were a little chick, and you wanted to beat him up. Even so, you still have the cheek to say that you have a good relationship with him? P2E, you're lying through your teeth. Oh, I see. No wonder you had 100,000-year soul beast sacrifice for you. What about Jiu Yuana? Weren't you with her that year? What's her identity? However, Zhu Zhuqing believed his words. She nodded her head and asked again. Na's identity is very special. I'll tell you, but you have to keep it a secret. Lu Yuan said with a serious look on his face. Tell me, I'll keep it a secret. Zhu Zhuqing nodded and said. Actually, Na is a god. A true god. However, she belongs to the Great Stardew Forest. She's responsible for protecting the Great Stardew Forest, just like how the sea god is responsible for protecting the entire ocean. That's why she doesn't leave the Great Stardew Forest under normal circumstances. There's no news of her on the continent either. I was actually in the Great Stardew Forest when I left for a year. I didn't even tell Cher about this. You have to keep it a secret. Lu Yuan reminded her once again. He had stealthily changed the concept. He had described Jiu Yuana as the guardian of the Great Stardew Forest. Although Jiu Yuana was indeed a guardian of the Great Stardew Forest and was indeed a god, she was actually a beast god. Lu Yuan had compared her to the sea god. Zhu Zhuqing naturally wouldn't think that Jiu Yuana was a beast. It wasn't that Lu Yuan didn't want to reveal Jiu Yuana's true identity. It was just that he wasn't powerful enough to protect everything. One day, when he was powerful enough, he wouldn't have to hide these things anymore. Furthermore, he had suddenly decided to tell Zhu Zhuqing these things today. Firstly, he had let it slip. Secondly, he had actually thought about these things carefully. Jiu Yuana was going to meet Chihiro Snow, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others sooner or later. At the very least, he had to arrange an identity for her. Since he was going to arrange it, it was best to do it now. Zhu Zhuqing had a cold and quiet personality. She was reasonable and sensible. Most importantly, she didn't have any conflicts with Jiu Yuana. She could be the first person he could confide in. After she found out, he would see her reaction. If she was all right, he could choose to slowly tell who Lena and the others. Furthermore, Zhu Zhuqing might be able to help him during this process. It could be said that Lu Yuan was very considerate when doing things. Yes, I will. But I still have a question. Didn't you say that gods can't descend to the lower realm? Then why can Jiu Yuana stay on the continent even though she's a god? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Because Na just became a god. According to the rules of the god realm, newly ascended gods can stay on the continent for another 100 years. After 100 years, they can enter the god realm again. Therefore, Na can naturally stay on the continent. Lu Yuan said. So that's how it is. Zhu Zhuqing was enlightened. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing's appearance, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile slightly. What a joke. How could he miss anything when he did things? He had thought about this point long ago. Don't ask. If you did, it meant that she just became a god. How about it? The reason was sufficient. Do you have any other questions? Lu Yuan asked. No. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing shook her head and gently lay in Lu Yuan's arms. To be honest, Lu Yuan's words were a little shocking. She didn't expect Jiu Yuana to be so outstanding. She was a real god. Compared to her, she was really far behind. Even the inheritance of the sea god was fought for her by Lu Yuan. It seemed that she had to work harder from now on, Zhu Zhuqing secretly said in her heart. Chapter 757. 3 days later. A horse carriage came from the official road. Outside the carriage, a black-clothed old man was driving the carriage. Master, we're almost at Senyu City. Long Xiaoyao's voice rang out as he looked at the tall city gates. All right, I got it. Lu Yuan replied plainly in the horse carriage. Turning his gaze slightly, Lu Yuan's gaze shifted to Ma Xiaodao. Sister Xiaodao, I remember that sect Master Fu Yinheng's Zither sect is in Tianyin City next door to Senyu City, right? Yes, Master. Do you have any instructions for me? Ma Xiaodao asked. Yes, I want you to look for sect Master Fu and ask him to keep an eye on the movements of the Star Luo royal family. This time, we came here to break off the engagement. Regardless of whether we succeed or not, the Star Luo royal family will definitely take action against us. After all, I crippled Davis, and Dai Mubai was also publicly punished by teacher not long ago. The Sionra Empire lost a lot of face because of this. Not only did their prestige take a huge hit, but they also lost their two most outstanding successors, Davis and Dai Mubai. The Star Luo imperial family's Dai Tianfeng must hate me to the core. Now that I'm here to cancel the engagement, he'll definitely find trouble with me. However, the Sionra Empire's top fighting strength can't threaten us. Therefore, it's very likely that they'll send out a Soul Master Legion to overwhelm us with numbers. Although I'm not afraid, it's always good to be prepared in advance. Furthermore, I want to give Dai Tianfeng a huge blow this time. I want to destroy the Sionra Empire's prestige once again. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed as he spoke plainly. Yes, I understand. I'll go immediately. Ma Xiaodao said. All right, go. I'll wait for you to come back before going to the Zhu family. The Zhu family has been married to the Star Luo imperial family for generations. It won't be easy to get them to agree to cancel the engagement. Although the engagement is only in name now, we still have to use absolute strength to conquer them. Otherwise, they won't be so easy to talk to. Oh yes, you should bring your Dragon King's token. If you want to mobilize the forces under the Dragon King's hall, it's useless even if you're an elder. Therefore, you must bring the Dragon King's token. Lu Yuan warned in a low voice. Don't worry, my lord. I've already brought her. Please wait for a moment, my lord. Ma Xiaodao will be back soon. Ma Xiaodao replied. Then, she got out of the carriage. Her figure turned into a red light, and quickly disappeared into the horizon. It had to be said that Ma Xiaodao was usually a little active and playful, but she was still very serious when it came to doing things. Otherwise, Lu Yuan wouldn't have brought her along. Apart from the fact that he had a beautiful woman by his side, Ma Xiaodao was also very serious. After Ma Xiaodao left, Lu Yuan and the other two continued on their way. Zhu Qing, I might be a little impolite this time, and I might use force to pressure you. I want to let you know in advance so that you won't hold a grudge. Lu Yuan said softly as he caressed Zhu Zhuqing's long hair. It's okay. To me, that family was only endless coldness and darkness. Other than my mother taking care of me a little when I was young, I didn't feel any warmth. After I awakened my martial soul, my elder sister was always thinking about how to kill me. She used poison, assassination, and all kinds of methods. However, they still let her do whatever she wanted even though they knew about it. They tacitly approved of her actions. Otherwise, I wouldn't have risked my life to enter the life relic. I originally wanted to give it a try and struggle. Fortunately, I met you that time. So, no matter what you do this time, I'll support you from behind. However, Abuchi, I hope that you won't kill too many people for my sake. Zhu Zhuqing leaned against Lu Yuan's chest. There was a hint of pleading in her voice. Don't worry. I'm going to marry you this time, not just break off the engagement. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need to consider so much. So, I won't kill people indiscriminately. I mainly want to use force before using force. I want to shock the people of your Zhu family first, and then settle our marriage. It's true that the Zhu family and the Star Luo royal family have been married for generations, but I don't believe that your father and the others are really of the same mind as the Star Luo royal family. As long as I show a strong force and promise a certain amount of benefits, it shouldn't be difficult for us to be together. Lu Yuan said softly. Well, it's up to you. I'll listen to you. Listening to Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing gently nodded her small head with an obedient look. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled slightly and hugged Zhu Zhuqing's delicate body tighter. He buried his head in Zhu Zhuqing's long hair and sniffed the enchanting fragrance. At the gate of Senyu City, the carriage slowly drove in. The moment Lu Yuan and the others' carriage entered Senyu City, the system's cold voice sounded in Lu Yuan's mind. We have arrived at the sign-in location, Senyu City. The sign-in time is 3 hours. The countdown begins. Has the sign-in started? It's very early this time. Listening to the system's voice, Lu Yuan couldn't help muttering to himself, the corners of his mouth raised into a smile. He thought that this time, the sign-in would definitely be triggered when they arrived at the Zhu family or even the Star Luo royal family sent troops to attack them. He didn't expect that the sign-in would start as soon as they entered Senyu City. Could it be that the people I got from the sign-in this time are more important to my operation this time? Lu Yuan couldn't help but secretly think. According to the system's nature, this is really possible. But there is definitely no danger. I don't feel the pressure of danger in my heart. In that case, I won't care about him. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan put this matter aside. Zhuqing, do you know where is a good hotel in Senyu City? Let's stay there first, and when Sister Xiaodao comes back, we will go to the Zhu family. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan said softly. I know, the best hotel in Senyu City is called the Crescent Moon Hotel. We can stay there temporarily, but... Speaking of this, Zhu Zhuqing's voice paused. But what? Lu Yuan asked. But my family also has a share in this Crescent Moon Hotel. Once we check in, they will know that we are here. Zhu Zhuqing said. If they know, then let them know. This time, I have no intention of hiding it. I just want the whole continent to know that I, Lu Yuan, want to marry you, Zhu Zhuqing. This time, I came here specifically to break off the engagement. I want to see what the Star Luo royal family can do to me. And your father and the others, they will know sooner or later anyway. It doesn't hurt to let them know in advance. Would they dare to come here and make trouble for us? Lu Yuan asked with a chuckle. He wouldn't dare. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing shook her head gently. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.